That's why I can't stand like everyone's going back and forth with varieties. Say, guys, varieties put out two stories within 3 days of each other that contradicts each other. Now that you showed me like they're going back to it, it's like, make a decision. Where are your
Well,
sources coming from?
well, definitely from. Well, I think it's almost like the Warner Brothers thing where it's like I think the sources are coming from two places. They're coming from the people that want to go right to Disney Plus
Hmm.
because they think it's a great idea, and that's also coming from the Disney people that think, we just want to be in theaters. I really do think, like, I doubt it's like I don't think it's the same way that Warner Brothers and Warner Media are like so divided. But I feel like there is a hey, there's a camp people that say I want to put this on Disney Plus to get out there, and there's a camp that says no, like let's wait till theaters. And I think that's what it is, and it is interesting because I remember it was like days before Wonder Woman got announced to the slate. We had that same thing. I'm pretty sure it was Variety as well, where it was
Hmm.
you had whispers of, oh, it's going to go to streaming, and then a few days later, you got whispers like, no, that's a little too early, and then a few days later, boom, it came. So luckily, with it being March, I think that's why we're hearing this because I think they're talking about it, but I think they will hold off. But it did remind me of that, like, okay, we're here. So I just know that I think no matter what come March we'll get like an official like okay this is what we're doing at least for now and
Yeah, I think that's more than expected. And like I said in the chat, I can be with Brent on one more delay, but after that, you do something. You can't
yeah.
do it anymore.
Well, that's why I say they just drop the mic and delay like a whole year again. They're just like, you know what, we're putting because like, you know, all they didn't
Motherfucker, I swear.
they didn't have any you know, they didn't have many Disney movies out last year, and why not again? You know, I guess it'll be interesting because I imagine in March they'll give a new subscriber count, right? I would think for
Mhm.
Disney Plus. So it's going to be interesting to see because that's going to be our first kind of look to see how WandaVision did as far as like subs and success and
Yeah,
everything like that, right?
and
So that and
that's
what because Soul got 3.2 million or something like that.
yeah,
So
something
it
like
was like
that.
around like
And the
obviously
fact
not
that it got
just
like
Soul, but
1.6 billion views at that point.
I couldn't believe it. I like, and I know because lots of people like I've watched it 3 times. I watched it the first time, I watched it a few other times with the kids, but still, just the fact that it did watch that many times, I was quite surprised. I was surprised of even honestly, like I said, Christmas, I was still surprised it got 3.2 billion. I thought, okay, enough people want to see Soul. If you would have told me 1 million, oh yeah, that's a good number.
Yeah.
1.5, okay, I could see that. But when it was two and up, I was like, and obviously it's Christmas, people are talking about, but I still thought because Christmas might hurt it because it's like, well, why subscribe when if anyone's with families, they could just all
Hmm.
watch it together. But no, people, you know, that's
And
why I am interested to see what Raya does. But
and that's the thing. It's not like I said. This is more an adult Pixar movie than it is for kids. This
yeah.
kids aren't do not get much out of this. So
Well, and it's so funny. My daughter, the oldest one, the first time we watched it, she actually wasn't that into it. She wasn't into it more the second time, but the first time, yeah, there's times where she kind of like walked away, was like, okay, this is not the Pixar one for me. But then after, she's kind of liked it more. I don't think she's like me with a critical mind, being like, I appreciate this. It was just like
yes.
maybe she just kind of knows the beats a bit more, and she knows which parts she
Hmm.
likes are coming up. But the first time, yeah, she wasn't as because I like, oh, a Pixar movie. It was the first one since Onward, which Onward she really liked. So I was like, oh, she's probably gonna really love this, and she did because yeah, I think it is a bit more like adult psychological. Like, what are you doing with your life? You know, where kids aren't worried about that right now. They're just worried about coloring the lines.
Yeah.
Okay, I will share this and then
At
we'll
least we
go.
just got a light news week, a lighter one.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually maybe get to bed a little bit early tonight.
There we go.
And I do slice of film tomorrow with Katie.
What you guys covering?
Aliens. This time it's war.
Oh, right. I forgot you guys did the first one. Yeah, that's you gonna stick with it all the way to AVP.
No, I'm sticking with it to 3 because I don't acknowledge resurrection.
Yeah, I don't think many people do. Yeah, no, I gotta
I
get
didn't.
back on there
I had
once, and I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
I had forgotten how much behind the scenes drama there was with that movie.
With two or three?
2,
Oh yeah.
3. I
Well,
already knew the drama with
yeah,
that.
I was gonna say it's pretty drama-ridden franchise. Unfortunately for them, they didn't get a didn't get an easy route.
Hey, they got a Snyder cut version of the original script in comic form, so there's
Mm.
that.
That's how I thought we were gonna get the Snyder cut at some point. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean,
I always thought we'd get that, and then like 15 years or 10 years, we get like the previs version, and that'd be the
the,
most.
the Donner cut version.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Links are share. Well, I'm about to share links, but they are ready to go. And
All right.
I'm ready to go. If you're ready to go,
Yeah, I
I'm
want
sure the
to
people are ready
see
to go.
the shared link. Here it is. Live. Oh, good choice.
Oh,
Out
of
of this
course.
world.
Oh man, Greg is live right now on C3 Panthers podcast. He's competing with us. What? That's it. Terminating the contract.
All right, let me share, retweet.
I don't want to talk about any football after last weekend.
As you predicted.
Always. Oh, just my life. Just my Packers life. And you know what? If Aaron Rodgers is gonna leave, he should. Okay.
Okay, do that. And retweet from World's Finest.
Here before the show starts. Listen to him today, Snail. Doesn't sound like he's leaving. So if Chris still figuring that he's talking about Rodgers. I don't know, Stress. It's tough because like I just don't know how.
Welcome to welcome to Marvel Sportscast.
If you are at least in the conversation, the strong conversation to win MVP, and then your coach decides, hey, on fourth and whatever, it was fourth and first and goal. We're not gonna have the MVP throw it or try and make a play. We're gonna kick it. I think he's just saying that for now, but I do think he could. If I were to bet you $1 Canadian, Travis, I'll PayPal it if you're right. I think he's going to leave, and I think he's going to go to 49ers because he's been a massive 49ers fan his whole life. And I just think like it's been 10 years since he got even to the Super Bowl, and there's like it's always the same problems. His offensive line, they never get anybody to protect him. They just beat the shit out of him, and that's what happened this game. Like if he could have had more chances to throw. And then, like I said, the kick that didn't make sense. So I would hope. I'm a Packers fan. Like I don't want to be divided, but if he leaves, I'll still be a Packers fan and him as long as he doesn't go to Patriots because fuck the Patriots and fuck Tom Brady because they cheated a bunch for years and nobody talks about it. Everyone talks about Tom Brady being the GOAT, but they don't bring up Deflategate. They don't bring up him breaking his phone. They don't bring up, recordings of practices and stuff like that. It's not like the guy cheated once. It's like, oh, maybe he's innocent or not. This guy, looking at Tom Brady and Patriots.
I mean,
like,
no one talks about it. Everyone
okay,
brings it up with Brady. What are you talking about?
Oh, see, I'm the reverse. Like now he's in the Super Bowl. Like everybody just like talks about it. And I just feel like, I don't know, in my opinion, you can't call someone the GOAT with that history. I think there needs to be like a major asterisk by it. To me, you can talk about me when the grace, that's fine, but I can never call him the GOAT when there's not one. There's like 4 to 5 like multiple cases of him tampering with rules. And not just him, it's Belichick and all that, but it's just like, so no, I don't want Rodgers going to Patriots. Anywhere else, I'll support him because I think I can see why he'd be a little pissed. I think he's just playing it safe right now because he's going to look at what offers are out there, but he also wants to get a good offer from Green Bay. So I don't think he'd say like, hey, F you, I'm leaving, because then be like, fine, leave. I still think he wants to see what is Green Bay going to give him because maybe he wants to pay for 49ers, but they give him an extra $5 million. I'm staying in Green Bay, and he's also from the area closer to San Francisco, so I could see him. That's what I think has happened. So, end of Marvel football talk.
Do you want me to record on my end?
Did you get the? Yeah, you can tonight. I did send you the Zencaster logins, but
you sent me the login information. You just didn't send me a separate link.
Oh no! Did you log into it?
No, I haven't logged into it because you usually just send me like a separate join link.
Oh no! What I was gonna get you to do is you log into it because I don't record my own because the strain on my computer is terrible. In the next few months, I'll be getting a new one, but because then you can record and then I just have it. Yesterday, I thought he was leaving, but I don't think he is. I think you may need to investigate the cheating case as Deflategate was only, as Deflategate was the only one he was involved in. No, that's why I said Patriots and him. But here's the thing, though, Travis. If he is on a team that is practicing recording other people's practices and they get better, the defense, whatnot, and they win because of that, he's still on that team. He's still part of it. And this is the guy who destroyed his phone and was like, oh, I don't know my phone. I don't know what happened to it in the middle of investigation. You're telling me that guy didn't know about, what is it? Like the practicing being recorded? No, There's way too many. There's just too many coincidences with him. There's just, it's like if we're talking about like other people in the industry that maybe directed the Avengers movie, where it's like it's not just one thing. It's like a whole line of like, hey, this seems very peculiar that all this stuff happens around you, but you're innocent in all this. That's how I feel about Patriots and Brady. Of course they won some. Of course it takes skill, but to me, there's like asterisks by. So like, look at the season with Deflategate. You got what, 3 game suspension? Oh man. What a tough life it is to be Brady. But here he is destroying his cell phone with a rock. My goodness.
Okay, so you want me to create a new episode in Zencaster?
If you're in there should be a Marvel Alliance 35. Just click on that, and then when you go in there, it's gonna say 33. Is there? Did I say? 33? Yep. Sorry.
Yep, it is. Yep. Okay, gotcha. All right, so I got that, and I guess I'm technically Travis now.
Yeah, that's what. But it will record. It's just like podcast host. So you just hit record and then you're good.
Okay, you don't need me. You don't need me to do anything. Dude, just hit record on my end. Then
yeah, because then I have yours. The only thing is in the settings. Just make sure that it's your mic it's that mic, because sometimes it'll switch to like a different mic. Like
yeah, that was my first experience with Zencaster. That's why the first couple of episodes of World's Finest sound like real crap in my opinion. But no one else thinks so. But you can definitely tell the difference.
Hey, I know his contract isn't up immediately, but it's just like, he's talking about it. But even then, some people have brought out ways that he could get out of it, because people have said there's been already talks about it. So just wait and see. Things happen all the time. What was his name? Rob Gronkowski signed a year contract with WWE, and then he goes to Tampa Bay. It's over. Contracts, there's always a loophole. I'm ready when you are, Chris.
All right, I'm ready too. No, and Travis, I do enjoy talking sports. It's just COVID's taken my love out of many sports these days.
That's fair.
So, yeah. So we'll see. It's been much more economical for me. I'll tell you that much. All right, so I will hit record on mine with Zencaster. All right, I'm recording here, and you're recording there. Everyone's recording. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics to TV to movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
I'm the podcaster of Mischief, Chas Snail.
Alliance Assemble.
There we go. Volume 33 is today. We got lots of fun stuff to talk about. Chris, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, and thank goodness you fixed that in post, because those of you that are watching on YouTube, we did not sync that anywhere close to it.
No, because I think sometimes there's still like a minor, like a 3-second delay sometimes between you and me. It varies between some casts, so that's why in the audio feed they get the perfect assemble. YouTube people, you get that's why it's all about doing it live. F it, we'll do it live. You get the raw, what's gonna happen, everything like that. But how you doing?
Raw, uncut, for the fans, for the people.
Yeah. How's your week been?
It's been good. Just a week so far. 2 days down, and work is work, and rainy day here, but
yeah.
But I have WandaVision. I have my health, and I ordered some interesting books coming my way, so I'm excited about that.
Ooh, like comic books or books? Oh, I asked them at the wrong
comics.
time.
This is like take a sip. Yeah, these are some omnis that I'm closing out some of my collecting stuff with this. So there's a few closing it out, but a little bit of Captain America by Brubaker action.
Oh, very nice. Don't tempt me, Frodo. But yeah, I for people, if you listened last week, I got my Moon Knight one, and then I sent in Chris the 3 other ones I just pre-ordered within 24 hours, because I was just like,
he's gaining. I'm starting to ease back.
Yeah, and then I was on the chase I was telling him Spider-Man Volume 1. I was like, I don't think I'm going to pay $375. I'm going to wait till they go and reprint or something like that. But I got my hands on the Volume 2 one, and the one that I'm very excited. I didn't even know about this. I just went down a rabbit hole, was the first run of Hobgoblin. I'd show you that one. I'm very excited because Hobgoblin, I love just the goblins in general, but I love how different they are. I love that mystery. Even though when you go back and you look at the story of Hobgoblin, like half the time they didn't even know what they were doing with that character, but it was great it's great when you read it. And the Moon Knight stuff has just been so good to reread because I've read some of the issues, but some I haven't. And I completely forgot that like he gets his very first time getting that costume is just because he's given it to it. Like, here, wear this to hide your identity. It has no meaning, has no importance. Where now the costume and the symbols, it's like so important to the character. So it's fun reading all that like Golden Age and Silver Age stuff. There's some good stuff in there.
Oh yeah, no, it's good stuff. Like I said, I'm finally getting to the closing out of what I need. There's one more, at least for the X-Men, there's one more omnibus that's coming out of Claremont's run. We don't know if they need a few more to kind of gain to Claremont and Lee, but the fifth one has not been solicited. But the fourth one, they've reprinted 1 through 3. 3 just came out a couple weeks ago. But the fourth one has been 5 years in the waiting. So that's how long it's been between the first 3. Yeah.
Oh, don't tempt me with those ones. Those ones I told you I have a tough time because I have some of those in like just graphic novels. So I'm like, do I rebuy these? But I think one day I'm buying some characters right now that I don't have much, or I've read them in single issues. So like to create, like get them all curated. But one day I might have to dip my toes back in the X-Men.
Oh, I'm telling you, Brent has definitely turned me around on digital, especially with Marvel Unlimited being now 3 months and DC Universe Infinite going 6 months, and that's finally premiered. So it's definitely helping me ease into the transition to digital.
Oh, I know, and it's so funny. I've been digital for years because like Kelowna here has shitty comic book stores. Like this is their library, so that's how I have to read them. So, well. Yep. That's our comic book talk right there. So
enough small talk.
Yeah, exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Geek Ultimate Alliance. If you don't know, this is our podcast network, 7 days a week, 10 shows. Speaking of comics, Monday is World's Finest True Believers. What did you cover this week, Chris?
We had a retro talking with a first-time guest, Patrick, about one of the seminal tales from the Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. 4 issues from the Perez and Wolfman run.
Very classic storyline. One of those kind of like I always say there's certain ones that like on Batman they come up like, oh, you have to read this. That's one of those like Teen Titans, Rob, like even in DC in general, it kind of comes up all the time. It's like, hey, these are the top 20 you should read, you know.
And that one's a tough one because you go into it. It doesn't, if you just read those issues, it just doesn't, the hit doesn't land as hard unless you have read the previous lead up to it, which is a lot of issues, but it definitely hits a lot harder, the revelations in those 4 issues.
And then, so yeah, you can check that out, and then I won't spoil anything, but you got some good guests coming up, so I think that's going to be some very exciting stuff happening at World's Finest True Believers, so it's, yeah.
Got some plans. We've got our finalization. We got a fun stuff for the 50th episode that's coming up in about a month or so, so I'm going to talk to Travis off air about my decision about what book.
Oh, that's a big one. So there you go. So, and then Tuesdays is our counterpart DC Alliance. They got a lot going on there. Superman Lois trailer, I always want to say Batgirl, Batwoman season 2 is up there as far as their spoilers review. You were on there last week. Again, check out your interview with Sean O'Connell, really good. And you're on there for episode 1 of that. Every Wednesday is us on the podcast feed. If you want to watch us live on Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. No, what is it? 6 p.m. my time, Pacific. There you go. Or that's why you just follow Twitter and we get all that stuff out there. Thursday is a nice triple threat of Power Rangers, Ranger Alliance, Slice of Film, and Star Wars Alliance. Star Wars Alliance is back this week. My biggest rival, arch enemy Taylor Field, is co-hosting with Katie this week. They're talking about the final chapters and parts of Light of Jedi. Friday, superhero discussions, reviewing Batman the Animated Series, which is just always a good time. I'm always excited to get that one when it drops. And then they record SES on Fridays. Last week was a retro. The podcast feed edition of SES drops on Saturday, and then the weekend is Jim covering Weird Science Roundup with DC and Marvel. And I was surprised because he emailed me both, and I was like, oh, the DC one's the biggest, the Marvel ones, and he obviously there's tons of comic books right now, but all together, I think it's almost like 4 hours of content that he did just all by himself. And listen to that show if you're into comics, if you want to know what to read, if you're not caught up, it's a perfect way to go. And also, it's just like some fun stuff is in there. I like the way he edits some of the stuff. He's always putting in some zingers or some fun music cues and whatnot. He's a very talented, interesting guy when it comes to the podcast, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, definitely. I love the little what is it? Oh, what did it say? The bumpers he creates.
Yes, yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything. And then you head over to Patreon. You can go over there for ad-free exclusive episodes. Dollar tier is just kind of the tip jar, the thank you. And then $5, like we said, that helps support the network, helps grows it. There's tons of, I think I've counted, I think there's 7 or 8 exclusive episodes up there. There's a combination of top 10 lists to amalgam chats. And then this week there'll be 2 going up there. Some
One two
I'm not.
punch.
Yeah, 1-2 punch. Chris, what's the one you just did? We can tease that one
Yeah,
because that
we
will be
we
out this week.
literally just recorded. I'm doing a double header tonight, but we just recorded. Tony, Clay, and Joe and I recorded our. We've gotten 1 month into future state, so we have recorded our thoughts of our hot takes, our favorites, our mid tiers, and our WTF what was going on.
Yeah, that's a good thing because I've listened to some of Jim's, but I'm still gonna be listening to your guys's because it's one of those that it's quite an interesting run already so far of just seeing people's reaction. It's not like oh it's panned. It's not like oh this is the best. It's all titles are very mixed kind of all together. There's a few that I've stood. I was like oh these are the big, good ones, but the rest are it's kind of mixed. So I'm excited to listen to that. And then Clay recorded a review for Radiant Black. So lots of stuff bobbing off over there. And yeah, I think that is everything. Chris, are you ready to talk about you ready to go into Westview?
Oh yes, I almost half considered the intro changing it to maybe changing one of the things to Westview. I might do that for the next couple of weeks. I might take out little Mojo verse and put it or Negative Zone. We'll see.
There you
We'll
go.
see.
Yeah. It's gonna be
But
a while
yeah,
before we get to the Mojo verse.
yeah. Well, you listen to some people say it's like I think maybe it's Mojo fooling around. I was like, whoa, we're taking a big leap of that one, but
Yeah, I'm
hey,
not
I'm
ready to
there
make
for
that
it.
leap.
I said we're ready to
That-
make the leap to the devil, mind you, but Mojo, okay.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, episode 3. I think it was now in color.
Yeah. Now in color
Or
is the title of that one.
yep. And but yeah, we are in the 70s. We are a lot of I had fun writing down some of these Easter eggs I caught after 3 views. So it very obviously, I think we could say, a very big homage to the Brady Bunch. The
Yeah.
setup and the look.
Yeah, and I think that's why for me on the comedy and entertainment wise, I liked the last 2 better because I don't think I was really that like despite everyone maybe knowing that follows me, my favorite gif is the Sure Jan. That's the movie, that's not the TV show. So that's the thing where
Yeah.
it's like it was never big like 70s comedy other than maybe like even then Three's Company, that's more 80s, isn't it? We're getting into and stuff
No,
like that. Like
nope, that's 70s.
how far in that in 70s?
Well, that's one of the Easter eggs. And it's a very subtle one in the bike when he's on the bike. That's
Yeah.
a direct callback to Three's Company. John Ritter on the bike falling off.
Yeah, I see. I don't know the date, but that is one where on whatever it's in Canada, it's like Dream TV or something like that. Heinz would
Mhm.
know, but they would always play Three's Company over and over. And I love Three's Company. I love John Ritter. But other than Three's Company,
Come
none of
on,
the 70s
knocking our
ones.
door.
Yeah, none of and then they replaced Chrissy. What did they do there? But none of those 70s ones really stuck with me. So entertainment wise, I liked those ones last week, but I think they did a good job. It was interesting to see it, I was surprised how fast we're moving in the sense of I know some people that's been the debate is it a slow start or whatnot. I guess I'm just surprised of some things we've gone already. And like now I'll say it because we're gonna go be full spoilers. It's been a few days, so
Yeah.
you should have watched by now. But and that's what I want to start with you because I remember mentioning you and Brent saying no matter what happens, we have the twins introduced, which is it's one of those like benchmark moments of speaking of like WandaVision, like when Vision was an Age of Ultron, it's like wow, Vision is now in the MCU. He's in a film. People that
Yeah.
aren't comic book nerds know who Vision is. Like it's just like it's a thing. And now, like even when they're debating between the names Billy Tommy, it's just like and it was just like okay. And I still thought it would be maybe one more episode, but the fact that it happens, we don't know what's going to happen to these twins exactly. But the fact that it's in there, I was surprised that we got that in episode 3. Where were you on that?
No, I mean that's what I kind of expect. I kind of expected that just based on some of the trailers we've seen. It kind of matched up,
Mhm.
so I didn't think they were going to drag it out much longer because I think some of the jokes with pregnancies and sitcoms is the idea that either the star happens to be pregnant and they have to hide it, and that was all the big jokes throughout the whole thing, or it's just like they're really far along and they've got to make the joke of, okay, how much time actually went past between seasons,
Yeah.
and no, I mean, it was good. I mean, we've talked about, are the twins going to make it or not? I don't think they're going to make it out of here. Just as my theory with, I don't think we're going to see Vision make it out of this series alive. But and my other thing is, I don't know, we're going to see the twins because we've seen scenes from the trailers with the 80s, which is where we're headed to next, kind of family ties, like them kind of holding the kids and things like that. I just don't know. It'd be very interesting to see once we start getting to the 90s and in the aughts with the TV's kind of sitcom route. How much are we going to see of the twins? Because we haven't heard of any kind of casting for
Mhm.
the older twins. And so that's what I'm kind of seeing. Are we going to only see them from behind? Or are we going to hear of them and just not really see them? That's what I'm curious about, of how much more outside of the babies are we going to get?
I It's tough because I think we will. I think we'll get I don't know if I want to say substantial amount, but we'll get a good amount of them. I think at some point because this is the same
Mm-hmm.
studio that lots of stuff with Mandalorian season 2 came out, but at the end of the day, they still held on to Baby Yoda and they still held on to Luke Skywalker. And then I have some questions about kind of those bigger like names after. But I think because I think you need a little bit of them as at least kids to maybe teens to maybe form more of a connection. Because yes, of course, we know they're connected with a child, everything like that. But even just to give some sense of personality and whatnot. But it's tough because it's just, I guess it's just because we know we have kind of the 80s next, 90s, and 2000s. So that takes up 3 episodes, and we've kind of mapped that out before of what could be left. But I guess it's just a question of once I kind of know the run times of those last three, that'll be interesting. And same thing with these in the 90s or 2000s. All we've seen is I know people have clipped out that scene of like, oh, you see their like legs in a scene, right, walking around and stuff like that. So I think they will be in it. How much? I don't know, but I would lean to I think they'll have like at least a good amount, if for maybe at least one episode. I don't know about the whole series. I don't know. But then again, maybe they're the whatever the terrible thing, if it happens to them, doesn't happen to the finale. And if that's the case, and we get some of those longer episodes with what is it, with 7, 8 to 9, you could flesh them out a little bit because also people have been pitching, like, let's say they do make it and they are alive,
Yeah.
they could have them just kind of grown. Like, it's a weird sort of situation, but you could have them just a little bit younger than Elizabeth Olsen and just say, oh, well, because they got stuck in the multiverse, went somewhere, they aged up. So it's this thing of like, does it make sense for Elizabeth Olsen to have an 18-year-old kid right now? No, not really. But because of MCU Marvel magic, it's like, well, they overage. And now if they are coming to, like, let's say a young Avenger show, a champion, they can be that age already because it's, like I said, magic. So I could see it happening. I'm with you in the camp where I still think that I don't think these kids are going to make it out as far as this is, but there's just as many people pitching that's the plot of Doctor Strange 2, that she has to go get them back, right? And maybe they do survive.
Yeah, it's going to be just interesting where we end up. I agree with you that this episode wasn't as funny,
Mm-hmm.
and they definitely didn't kind of hit you on the head with kind of the slapstick humor, and it was definitely, this was one, and it showed the reasoning why the blog, some of the big time bloggers and reviewers got these 3 episodes, because this was the episode that kind of showed not their hand per se, but it kind of confirmed and led us to some ideas that we've been thinking of about what's going on. Definitely, I think you're right with, I like, we get more of the questioning of Vision,
Mm-hmm.
and the curiosity of, like, he's starting to piece together something. I mean, literally, he says it, something's wrong here. And that's one of my favorite moments from the episode, is just how he's just like, Wanda, something's wrong here. And we see her kind of flip it around and then change it back. And it's kind of interesting, the fact, because I know this whole thing of her correcting things is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's my prediction for the next couple of ones. Her going back and trying to get things right is going to start not being as clean
Mm-hmm.
anymore.
I've seen so
Things are, it's going to be messier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the same side as you that I think that she did it, but I have seen some people put the theory that this one she didn't recorrect. I still think she did just because I feel like it kind of fits with the whole
Why
episode.
would
Like
they
people,
say that? I haven't.
well, I think I've heard because like the other ones were so kind of in your face as far as the dinner scene, something weird was happening, but she's telling Vision, right? The beekeeper, she actively
Mhm.
says no. This is one where it's almost like someone else could change the track, and it's not like we saw her concern,
Yeah.
but the thing is, she also while she's talking, she's like, yeah, I've noticed these things too. I don't think that. I think it is her doing, but I could see why
Yeah.
some people might throw that up as, hey, because I said this at Geekers and I listened to Brent's on our Squadcast as well. I'm in this camp as well that some people have just written off that stork way too quick because like the fact she couldn't get rid of that to me right away, I was having red flags all over. Like this doesn't make sense as far as she could have so much. So I could see people tying that together of like you have the stork, you have this one. So maybe there's times where yeah, she does rewind it back, but maybe there's someone that even as if we talk about there is this greater threat, this greater villain at the end of the day, that could make sense of okay, if they get really too close to figuring out this thing's also gonna enter, like maybe it's like if one is coming to her like senses being like, maybe this is wrong, maybe some stuff is messed up, that villain's there to kind of push her forward to be like, hey, no, I'm just going to take that away. So Vision never talked to you or anything like that. I don't think so. I think I think it's more interesting with Wanda doing that as well. But I could see some people that have been throwing that theory like, okay, there's some breadcrumbs there, which that's the best thing so far with the show is there's breadcrumbs in every direction. And it's and I know like Paul Bettany and Liz Olsen have all said like, oh, the comedy will make sense. It all makes sense. It's funny because I guess it's just the circles I fall as far as Twitter and then also the people I talk to. I get that people have said it's slow, but I guess there's some people that find it like really slow. But I to me, there's like enough meat on the bone to chew on all of these to keep me invested and interested so far.
Yeah, and again, I've heard enough people saying that WandaVision just isn't keeping them. It is slow at that point, and I totally understand knowing
Mm-hmm.
their background and knowing what they like and don't like. I get that. It's gonna be one of those shows. I think that for those that are just like so on it, it's gonna be one of those things that I would tell people wait till it's over, then watch it all the way through when you can. I'm one that some shows you can do that and it's okay. Other shows you
Mm-hmm.
kind of need to settle on. I think this one, just because of how it is and how quick it is, we don't know. Like we said, we've heard that the last couple are going to be longer, but I think the fact that I'm hearing it more from people, I say that why don't you just kind of haze back and wait till it's finished and then kind of go the way through. That way you might be able to appreciate certain things a little bit more.
Because the tough thing is, when that really big thing does happen, or when the big shift does happen, people don't want to feel left out, right? They don't want to find out, so and so make an
Well,
appearance or big. Yeah, no, I know, and that's what I
can't
mean, right?
can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's the rock and the hard place where some people are gonna watch and probably would enjoy it more as a binge, but they don't want to see like, oh, Robert Downey appeared in WandaVision, hours after the episode premiered, right?
Deadpool made his first appearance in the MCU.
Exactly, because we know that'll happen. Everywhere kind of gives like, here's 6 hours pretty much when they're streaming shows, and then boom, spoilers galore. So that's why it's just best to stay off. But yeah, it's funny because so what I'm trying to think where we should go next. So I don't want to jump to the end here as far as like moving on, but in
Yeah.
the sense of Paul Bettany has been quoted this week, and he's been like, "Oh, episode 4 is going to really blow your mind." It's very interesting that we did, like we said, the critics only saw the first three. So do you think that we will be going into the other era in this episode, or do you think we could have an episode purely focused on Shield or Sword? Do you think it'll be a mix, or do you think what he's talking about that blows your mind is something big happening? Because it's one of these, it's such a blanket like out there quote, but because the reason I'm asking this one now is because that's been the tie of like, oh, it's slow, but just hang on, and it's just like, and I do wonder what that's gonna be because I still think even if you have 3 more decades of different comedy to go, I still feel like that's going to be that kind of vibe. Maybe it'll just more and more get things are breaking, stuff like that. But I think the show that's going to be for everybody is Falcon Winter Soldier. I think that's the show when that comes out, even more so than
Yeah.
Loki. That is the most MCU. It's kind of based off of what people call like the greatest MCU movie. That is the most digestible. That's going to have action and intrigue. And right away, there's not going to be any, Anthony Mackie playing house or anything like that. It's going to be him beating people up. But this show, it's one of these things where it's just like it is a slower burn. And it's like, what are you expecting as far as next week? As far as okay, if there's him addressing like, yeah, it's been slow, but just wait, what happens as far as next week to propel that forward?
I think we're getting a little bit more of the present.
Hmm.
I still think again, I'm sticking with my guns on this one that we're not gonna get a full episode of the present focused on the present until we got the 80s next week, got the 90s the week after, and then the aughts, because we did know that they're gonna be doing kind of a Modern Family kind of um like play off of it at that point. So I think we're gonna see the present a little bit more, just because this is our first kind of, the way the episode ended. We'll leave it at that because we'll talk about it a little bit later. Is just we go to the present. That's the first time we have legitimately gone to quote unquote the present
Hmm.
and the real world.
Yeah, it's tough because do you have, if it's a back and forth, do you have, well, I think there's a way you could do it, is like half the episodes there, half the episodes in the Westview world, and it's kind of going back and forth. I would love, because I do love those kind of, it's not a bottle episode because bottle episodes are a different meaning, but kind of in the sense of, I like those in TV
Yeah.
shows sometimes where they just focus on one character or one incident and stuff like that. Like a bottle episode, for example, when anyone's watched Breaking Bad, is like the bee episode or the fly episode, right? In my actuality, it's not
Hmm.
really a bottle episode because you do learn lots, but that's what I mean. Like that's just focused on these two characters stuck somewhere. I still think we could get that with Vision. I still think that's a big possibility. I still think that you could
Yes.
have, honestly, a whole episode about maybe Monica Rambeau, her being recruited, her being like, why is she here? Especially if she's gonna be in Captain Marvel too. Clearly, she's a character they have plans for. We've talked about she's a hero in the comics, so I could see that, or a sword centric episode and stuff like that. Maybe that's where you get a cameo
Mhm.
from a Nick Fury or someone else, of like a Colby Smulders or something like that. So it is interesting, but so what did you think as
Yeah.
far? Oh, go ahead.
No, no, I'll say, you're right. I mean, again, I think every episode is going to have a hold my beer moment. I think every
Yes.
episode has had some sort of moment like that, whether how big or small that hold my beer moment is. I think we could, in 3 episodes, we can each point to a hold my beer moment.
Oh, absolutely. I think this one had quite a bit of them too. Where are you?
Yeah.
Because I think
Mhm.
I'm gonna always ask you every week. Where are you on Agnes right now? What do you feel? Because this was the episode she was in the least. We didn't get much of her, but we got that little scene with her and her being very secret,
Mhm.
very hush hush. So it's just like, where are you as far as what? Is she a force that is trying? If she, like I said, I still think there's a chance it's just a red herring. But if she is she a force that's trying to help Wanda, is going against Wanda? Because I've still always said that if she is the Agatha Harkness we know and everything like that, I don't see her being held there against her will, you know? So is she just playing along? Like, how do you feel this week of what we saw of her?
Again, she's still wearing the brooch of
Mm-hmm.
the three sisters, which we always say that, she's coming from the Salem witch trials and things like that. So that's still there. But it's interesting just because, her and Herb and the conversation that they kind of have, or the whispers saying, is Gwendolyn in there? What is she doing? They
Mm-hmm.
seem to know it. Obviously, like, Gwendolyn's not from there, and she seems to be meddling with certain things, and they're worried about something. They're worried about how that's going to go over, and what's if Wanda obviously finds out, or what that's going to affect. Especially, I still think, I've said this before, for the most part, nothing in the MCU is not done without intention.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think she is still, Agatha Harkness. I think this is their version of Agatha Harkness, whether she's going to go by Agnes Harkness or just like be there. But there's way too many callbacks too, especially in the scenes we haven't seen yet that are coming in later episodes. AKA, she's dressed as a witch at one
Yes.
point for Halloween. That's a little too on the nose. Say, okay, come on. So, but it's interesting. The thing I want to, especially when we get to Herb, cutting through the the brick, and I kind of equate that to when Wanda's not necessarily focusing as
Mm-hmm.
much, like she's distracted by something. That's she's her control is only so much, but if she's distracted or not paying attention, that's what kind of results in that. But I want to know, with when she and Herb are like, she's looking at Herb and just like they're about to say something, Herb's about to tell him something, and he says, "We are all," and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the thing, we're all trapped, we're all prisoners. It's
We're all mutants. No.
we're all Greg wants that. Greg really wants that.
Yeah,
um it's I I don't. I am the thing that this is Wanda's creation. Wanda, and I know said last week she's antagonist leaning towards villain at
Mhm.
points. This one she definitely appears very much. She is the villain of this story. Um, and I can get into now. I can get into it later, but um, she. I'm of the thing that they're obviously these people. Some of them have an idea of what's going on, and it kind of relates
Yes.
back to kind of what Vision says in his quote from William Shakespeare. Saying, quote, all the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players. He chose that line. And then he continues on, they have their exits and their entrances. That's what the finishing of the quote is. He doesn't say that, but I
Mhm.
find that very interesting, that quote from Shakespeare.
These
They
synthoids
all
and
have a
their
part to play in this
Shakespeare.
play.
We'll
Yep.
talk about that in Combo Club. But yeah, so because we kind of had that, like we had talked about that, but we had thought from the episode and even the trailers that, okay, this is probably a town or something she's taking over. There's a bubble. We got that confirmed this week with Monica getting kicked out and everything like that. So, like you said, they have some sense of, we don't know how much they know. We don't know if they get reset, as maybe every time they get reset, they're they just think who they are, and then slowly as the days go on they start to slip back to their normal selves. It's the same way people brought up, like maybe this doctor when he's talking about, hey, I want to escape. That's because Wanda wasn't focused, and maybe he had, like, he thought this might be a shot for him to get out or something like that. So it's gonna be fun to learn what the dynamics of the town are exactly. What I was gonna
Yeah.
ask
And,
you,
and
oh, go ahead.
go for it, because I might
Oh,
turn into a completely different direction.
Oh, me too. So what I was gonna say is, because with that bubble, I'm asking you something that I meant to ask you last week, as far as, because everyone's been talking about mutants and all this stuff and everything like that, and we go check it out. We did the comic club. You go check out just the solo episode as well. We talked about mutants and where they could have been, stuff like that. I've seen people talking about, again, the Mind Stone of, like, their verse, no more mutants, that they're gonna be more mutants, stuff like that. But I do wonder in the future if they ever give us a Crow or something like that, if they use Wanda as like the the I don't know, the source of it in a way. Like, you could obviously just do it with the way they did in the comics, but sometimes they like to do that, right? Where adapt what we already have to that. And I just thought, because like that's kind of like a planet, a location that's like off to itself, that's almost shielded, almost like a Themyscira. I wonder if Scarlet Witch stays around and mutants stay around and we see them go away for a while or something like that, or even if Agnes has similar powers or something like that. I wonder if we could see a bubble like situation, because that's when I thought it was confirmed. Like, okay, bubbles can be pretty handy in Marvel, and I wonder if she could ever do something like that with X-Men, as far as keeping them hidden or anything like that, or mutants, as far as, let's say, after Doctor Strange and all this, she does create mutants, and she decides, like, they almost make her kind of like the leader for a while before they introduce Xavier or Magneto, as far as she's going to take them away and protect them because she doesn't like what the world has done to her. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good I don't know if that's a good idea for her to do, as she just probably is doing this with Vision, and it doesn't look like it's going too well. But this would maybe be like a, not against your will sort of situation in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting just because of hmm, I don't know if I get that. I don't know if we're there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see it right now, but
Oh
it
yeah,
doesn't mean
I'm
that it
just throwing
can't
out wild
happen.
theories at the board right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I'm not sure about that yet at
Mm.
this point. It would be a flip of the character from the comics, in the sense of, because they view her as the pretender, as basically the enemy of the mutants, based on what she did in House of M. Um
Yeah, yeah. Well, but then I
a-
guess if we ever get the reverse of, like, if Greg's right and we get the reverse of her saying whatever, I'm not gonna say that she's gonna say more mutants, but if she unlocks people's mutants powers, I think in our timeline it would be the reverse, right? Of, like, they take the
and we're back.
I'm back. Hang on, I'm gonna switch angles here. There we go.
Look
Not
at
the night.
podcast magic, everyone. You're gonna never know. YouTube, you'll
No,
know.
YouTube, you'll know. You go back, you're like, look, but no, my other camera's giving me some bugs right now, so I'm gonna switch this. But
Gotcha.
no, I was just saying that I still think it's strange if you were to do that, because then it's just like you lose a lot of the like, that's why I've never been down for the just everyone becomes mutants right away, because it's just like you'd lose to me like a lot of backstory as far as potentially Xavier and Magneto. If Xavier's just sitting around one day like just as a regular dude, and then just all of a sudden he can read people's mind, like I like the idea of like they are children, stuff like that. Same thing of, but who knows? I don't know. But like I said, I'm with you that I don't think we're there, but I just thought like, okay, we haven't really seen too much of like a full-on big bubble like that, or something being hidden away in the MCU yet, right? We've seen like it in multi-universes, but to have it literally be on Earth and stuck around, I don't. Is there a situation in the MCU that's happened where there's been something hidden? I think it's all like Doctor Strange
Um,
stuff, right? Where they're doing the
are you talking about like
mirrors.
kind of like the bubble and the reality and the kind of
Yeah, kind of like a Themyscira
well,
sort of
there.
situation.
Well, I would say that it's a couple of callbacks. When she's expelled, it looks when Rambo's expelled, it kind of looks like pixels on an old TV. However,
Mm,
it's also in my opinion as well. It's definitely a callback to um the reality bubbles created by the interdimensional incursions in Hickman's Avengers run, which
yeah.
led to Secret Wars with the collapsing of the different universes and Earths at that point. So different worlds colliding in reality and flux, which will lead to one of my factor fictions this week.
Oh, tease.
And so Wanda being caught in this, it's possible Wanda's caught in this incursion of her own powers, interacting with it and things like that. Um, so it's so there have been histories of this in Marvel, and it led to like I said, a big kind of deal of Secret Wars. So we'll see. Podcast magic, everyone. No, can't hear you. You're talking. No one's hearing you.
As far as the live, having
There you go.
having a great time tonight, no problems whatsoever. But no, I was saying as far as as far
Watch
as
the YouTube. It's gonna be fun.
oh, I know. As far as the actual MCU portion, I was just thinking like Doctor Strange. They do that with Caecilius with the glass and everything like that, like the mirrored universe and stuff. But yeah, it's just something that's thrown out. Do I think it's a strong theory? No, but everyone's throwing out there. I have a different theory that I think may be even more wobbly, but now's the time to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to mention, and I like how Brock brought it up on Marvel Squadcast, is the idea of our lovely, as you so put it last week, sexy devil Mephisto.
Yep.
Um, the idea of the stork, and the devil has had a history of taking different forms and different things like that, and that she couldn't necessarily get rid of it. And I like the idea. I think the only thing I have at that point, being if Mephisto's involved, he obviously should know that Monica Rambeau shouldn't be there, that him walking
Mhm.
around as a stork isn't going to do anything. Oh my God, what's a stork doing here? Rambeau knows that what's going on. She has knowledge of what's going on. So acting like I said, I like the theory, and I think maybe it's playing in. It's just that one. It's just I don't know if that's Mephisto or not, but I do really like that, his call that it could be Mephisto kind of playing tricks. It just when the stork was trying to grab onto Rambo's fish things at that point, trying to distract her, is like I think he should know that that's person that's not there, but you know.
Well, I thought because if she was undercover and doing the whole like, oh, because some people have said that, oh, she maybe was fading in and out of who she thought she was to Monica Rambeau. I don't read it that way. I just read it as she is, to me, officially, we'll get that answer, but she was sent there undercover, in my opinion. Maybe there was that time she got a trance, but she kind of knew what she was doing. Maybe the stork was trying to get her,
Yeah.
because we even see that at one point when the stork makes a sound. She's like, what's that sound? I never heard it. There's multiple times where she breaks character.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was the stork's purpose of trying to get her to slip so Wanda would see
No,
her,
yeah.
and see, hey,
So
this is, because like he doesn't, because
okay.
if he just comes out right out and the bird starts talking and says like, hey, that's a sword agent, she might be like, this is kind of strange. But if the bird accidentally kind of slips and like, oh, this is something, so the only reason, because I
no,
don't even,
in that case, yes, you're right. So I can definitely see that. I was just having trouble with. I think I kept on focusing on being distracted, but she should know. But like you said, she wasn't expecting it. So yeah,
Mhm.
in that idea that the devil's trying to have her break cover.
Well, and because to me, and that could be the case. I just still and because when we did on Geek vs. Clay brought up that, oh, maybe it's because she's in labor and she doesn't have full control of powers. I could get that. I just don't get how, if this person is going to cause the multiverse, Toby coming in, all this stuff, that she couldn't get rid of this bird. I just don't buy that. That was for me the tipping point of like something's true, and the fact that she tried it twice, it didn't work. Where everything else, and maybe it is, maybe that's just what it will be, that she wasn't in full control of her powers. But the fact that she did it twice and nothing happened to that bird went away on its own accord, is like, okay, she's not in control of this bird, where she's kind of been in control or affecting everything else. The same thing, like I guess there's that case though, because with the butterfly she accidentally makes them alive, so maybe she does that with the stork. But it is interesting because, and that's the fun thing that I think that has benefited the show being week to week. If it wasn't, we'd already know. There would be no like, what is this, you'd gloss over these details. You wouldn't be like, oh, the bird, what is this? We wouldn't be talking about 15 minutes about a bird if we had just watched the whole season. So that's a good thing about it, and that's where they're smart, because I know Feige talked about like the week to week working. And it's so funny because I talked to my fiance about it. So in our generation, how we went from having the week to week TV to being trained to binge and do all this stuff, but now we're being retrained to like watch it week to week. So it's kind of funny that we're going back to it.
Yeah, it's definitely, and the I'm trying to think of anything else like we talked about. It's I thought the crazy hijinks of her giving birth at that point, that was kind of chuckles at
Very
that point, just
sticky,
seeing
yeah.
the very sticky, but it's meant to be. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to call out is these 3 episodes reminds me, and I don't think it was ever called out per se, but it's very much a story of immigrants, is how they learn about American life from
Mm-hmm.
television.
Yes.
And so I think that this is very clearly taking from that kind of, I wouldn't say cliche, but it's been a story that's been used before with immigrants, how they learn about Americans and how they think American life is and what they strive for based on what they see on TV. It is very easy to assume that this is how Wanda has seen and learned about America, even when she was maybe not always with Sokovia, but also when she was with the Avengers in the Avengers Mansion, learning more about American culture and things like that, things that she grew up seeing. And so if you think about it, it's not one of those things where she gets everything right with how it's supposed to look and
She
how things are supposed to happen.
she just keeps watching or walking in Avengers Tower, and Steve will watch nothing but the 60s comedy. Like he just won't give up the remote or anything. He's just like, I'm watching the old time stuff. I don't want any of that new stuff. And she's the only one to watch it with them. But no, I agree
So
with you.
so wait a minute. So wait a minute. There's one guy living with 2 women, and that's not a problem.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
don't talk about that.
I think that, I think you're right that, yeah, it's like, it's a little like of a trope, but I think it'll get the job done. So
No,
the
I think
old
I don't mind it at all, but I
yeah.
just kind of more thought about it this episode as saying, okay, that makes more sense in every one of these. And if we think about it at that point, we go from the 50s with Dick Van Dyke Show, and then we move on to Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, that kind of
Mhm.
family lifestyle. We go into the Brady Bunch, and their homages and the credits to Mary Tyler Moore. But we'll stick with the family. In the 80s, we got Family Ties. I think that's going to be basically the image. 90s, I'm not sure yet what we're doing. I know in the aughts we're going for Modern Family.
Yeah, and they've
I'm
even,
not.
you can see little clips of Elizabeth Olsen doing she's talking, like she's doing the in-person talking to the camera, where she's talking directly at it. There's like
And
like a 2 seconds of her being like, I'm fine, everything's fine. So that's the whole
yeah.
tribute, like they're homaging that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the 90s. There's way too many to choose from, and I don't think we've seen enough from the trailers to kind of pinpoint, okay, they're going for this in the 90s. At
Well,
least
it's funny because,
nothing sticks out at me.
well, they did, remember when they listed inspirations, or they listed Friends, which is the superior comedy to Seinfeld in the 90s. They listed Friends, and I was very
I'll leave that
surprised
out
though,
right,
because
May.
I was surprised because that's a cast of characters, in my opinion, and that's
Mhm.
where I do wonder, is that where maybe Agnes and stuff maybe get a bit more in there if that's the Halloween episode? Because if you think about it, in the
Mhm.
90s, especially Friends, they're known for the Thanksgiving episodes, stuff like that. That was a very like gimmicky time where it's like shows were known for, oh, they did a really good this type of episode. So maybe they take the Friends approach as far as that's the Halloween. Before we get to the very serious stuff, it's like the whole, because she's dressed up as Scarlet Witch, so maybe that's the more tongue-in-cheek 90s one. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then with that kind of villainous turn we get of Scarlet Witch when they talk about I was a twin, and that's the moment she sings in
Oh,
Sokovia and just the creepy like little like vocals going on in the background, but then she's like, "Oh, and Monica just goes, he was killed by Ultron," and I was like, are you just trying to push her buttons at this point? I was just like, you're asking for it. It's just like
yeah.
it, it,
Well,
it was a little bit, you overplayed your hand a little too much right there. I was kind of surprised at that point that she overplayed her, in my opinion, she overplayed her hand, but maybe she was hoping if she kind of pushed her emotion, she might snap her out of it a much. Instead, it completely backfired on her.
that's how I took it. I took it both ways that you did. As far as, yes, she definitely overplayed her hand, but it's like this might be her only shot. What if this is the only
Yeah.
time she even breaks and talks about, like, yeah, okay, sure, Vision's the real world, but not really. She's not talking about how he's dead, stuff like that. What if this is the only time she's around for her to bring that up? And maybe there's a chance where she says that and then they start talking and then she could talk her down. Clearly, that didn't happen, and she got whooshed right out of Westview.
Yeah.
But
Boo.
that's how I took it
Oh
too, as
yeah.
like,
She's gone. She went
yeah.
home.
And I'm very interested to see, because we left that episode with Vision questioning her. Is it going to pick up right there and we're going to get her rebooting stuff again right away? Or is he going to, because the previews, he looks pretty happy again. So I feel like we're going to need another reboot. And I wonder if we're going to see that or if he's going to look back on that as maybe we get a flashback of that conversation from his point of view of him asking about her and him
Mm.
starting to put those pieces together. So it was interesting because every other time we've seen it gone back, but this episode ended with him still questioning her. Like I said, I think they will fix it or she will fix it, but I think that'll be another pointer for him to be like, yeah, something's not right. And he'll kind of maybe have this kind of, usual suspects moment of putting all the
Yeah.
pieces together at the very end.
Who's our Kaiser Sose?
Maybe just
um,
Wanda.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I know
Yeah.
I definitely she had that very villainous turn, and I know I've heard some other theories like saying someone's pushing her to this level, someone's wanting her to push this. Like, who is working behind the scenes to push Wanda's powers to a limit to kind of do something catastrophic, if it were.
Yeah. And
I've
I
heard other people kind of put that out there.
yeah, and I think that not unfortunate, but fortunately, I don't know if anyone is. I think it's just her getting to those levels. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you before this ended because I asked you before cast. So Paul Bettany also he's just given tons of quotes on Twitter, all vague quotes, but
Yeah,
this one has
but
been
before
going
I
around
say
quite a bit.
before you get, I know what you're gonna say. I'll let you finish. But one thing I want to
Yeah.
say about these quotes that are coming out. Okay, I'm sorry. Some of these bloggers have got to like stop making stories out of like the director. The director said that is hinting towards things that are coming, or the stars are saying, "Oh, I can't really comment on that." That is not a story. That is not a
No.
story. That is nothing there. Please stop.
Hey, when the news is light, they gotta do something. They gotta make that payday, I guess. But no, what I was gonna ask
I'll
you
get
is,
that. I'll get that. But I just needed to put that out there.
oh no, I agree. It's a little silly sometimes. But Paul Bettany put out that he said that, and this has been going around, I think, right after the episode, but it's been going around the past couple days. I've seen it shared multiple times as far as Bettany saying that he shared scenes with a secret actor that's gonna change the MCU or something like that. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he did use those words as far as like or not even big actor, I shouldn't say secretive actor that like it had big scenes with. Do you have any? Because we've talked about this before about the Evan Peters factor and whatnot. Like, and that could be. And this is what I wanted to ask you because I talked about this on Geek Force like weeks ago when we did our WandaVision predictions, and I was asking the guys like, who is Marvel's Luke Skywalker? Like, who is so in Mandalorian? Spoilers for that show, but come on now, if you're listening to this, you know what's up. Season 2 ended. Luke Skywalker. They kept that a secret, but also it was just huge.
Dang it!
Now it did
I was so close.
like it has big story implications, but that's just more. I get it. Luke Skywalker is a legend character. He's been around for decades. There's an aura around him. So I'm not saying Marvel has that type of character as far as to the level of Luke Skywalker. I'm just saying who is that? Like, what is a character? We've talked about Doctor Strange, we've talked about Loki. I think those are cool, and I think that gets people talking, but I don't think that gets the Luke Skywalker reaction or even anywhere near. I don't think that gets what Paul Bettany's like. If it's just Tom Hiddleston and he's like, I shared scenes with a secret actor, then they got to be careful in the next press tour because you still got to kind of deliver on some of that and what you say. So I think he's smart enough not to say anything. I do just wonder is like, oh, have they think it's really big because it's Evan Peters, but they don't know like us, the fans, have maybe been tipped off of like, hey, we know this guy's in the show, but what are you taking these quotes? Because I have a theory, but I want to hear you.
Yeah, I won't go the Evan Peters route just because we've known that for
Yeah.
it's a bad kept secret at this point. So I'll go something different. Like, who is, to your point, who is big enough in the MCU that him as Vision has not gotten a chance to act with. He said ever, but I know definitely in the MCU. I'm gonna go with Samuel Jackson. I'm going Nick Fury because we know he's a part of Shield. We know he would not Shield, Sword at this point, excuse me. And this would be kind of an interesting cameo for him.
Mhm.
And again, we know Secret Invasion is another Disney Plus show that's in the works. And yeah, I'm just gonna go with Nick Fury. I think that
Okay.
Luke Skywalker-esque, but not necessarily. He's the one that kind of has been there in the background, and I could see him making a cameo appearance.
Okay, so this is where I'm gonna go to Crazy Town because if you're gonna
All
ask
right,
me,
you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
yeah, if you're gonna ask me, is this happening? I'm gonna tell you no, but I'm gonna say of what I think could happen, and the only thing to me that would warrant that is because like the Nick Fury thing's right, but that definitely has to be like something big has to talk about him as far as the world building. I just try to think of like for him as Vision, would he know, or sorry, as Paul Bettany, would he know? Oh, this is a big deal. And that's where I have been. Again, I'm going to say no, but I do wonder if a Magneto / Eric Lencher appearance is possible. And the reason I bring this up is not even if it's Fassbender, is because that to me would warrant if the finale has a mention or a let's say this is because this to me would be even bigger massive if we got our MCU Magneto and it was played by the guy like whoever was playing him and that was the finale of it, that would have everyone talking because I wonder we
Yes.
think that we may get flashbacks or dream flashbacks too. We always talk about that shot of Wanda with the stone, right? And she's wearing her garbs that she was wearing in Age of Ultron, so it shows whatever she's messing with the multiverse stuff like that. I'm wondering if at one point Vision like gets into Wanda's mind and he kind of time traveler's life, a little creepy, but let's not talk about that. He's seeing Wanda as a child or something like that. And then in the distance, you see her real father, and that would be Eric Lencher. And he almost has almost like Ben Solo and Han Solo had that scene in episode 9 where it's like, oh, I'm just your memory. I'm not really here. What if Vision learns about her kind of beginnings, about that wasn't her parents, the Sokovian parents were adopted, stuff like that, and he meets an Eric Lencher? I think it's weird and trippy. I don't know if they go that far, but to me, if they just the base of how they do it, and that's why I was trying to think, okay, how would Vision share a scene with him, stuff like that. If they were to say that, that to me is because now there's been multiple times like it's going to be big, it's going to blow your mind. I don't think that's happening in episode 4. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I still think it's in play because I always said that no, they weren't going to do the Fox X-Men. I always thought they want their own MCU, but we don't have it confirmed. But if Evan Peters appears as this show as Quicksilver, all bets are off. Like it's literally we're at that point. And to me, it's not even like the Toby thing where it's like, oh, they're going to be in it maybe for a little bit of bounce. It's just like if you bring Evan Peters back as Quicksilver and he's our Quicksilver now, and we don't know how it's going to go down. That to me opens, and I don't know if it would be Ian McKellen. I don't know if it would be Fassbender. We've talked about this before. Patrick Stewart has met with Kevin Feige, so it's not out of the realm of possibility for, hey, Fassbender, come take a meeting. And who knows, even Fassbender could play the young version of our character, and then when we meet them, he's an older actor. I don't know, but I am thinking that's a theory I have. Percentage, I give it like a 20% of actually being true, maybe even 15, but I just thought like what would be a big wow. Everyone's talking. They introduced Magneto in this show.
Yeah.
That would get people going.
I would agree. I mean, yeah, that would be the talked about event, and
Yeah.
and Greg would have to come on Marvel Alliance saying, "I told you."
Oh yeah, he would do his victory lap and everything.
Yep, and but yeah, I mean, sure, definitely out there wild, but definitely would get the again, I
Yeah.
wouldn't it like it'll be interesting if that would be I wouldn't see it coming, but hey, why not? Because I've also heard theories that the the actor and actress that are playing in these commercials have been the same people, and it's
Hmm.
Wanda's either it is or it's her version of her parents.
I could, yeah, I could. That I think that's really clever. I think I would really like that. That'd be tons of
Mhm.
fun, actually. But yeah, and that's where I was wondering too. With the
S-
other shows too, like you could have people cameo, but this could be the show where you could do something big or really wild because of the multiverse stuff. We don't know if that's going to happen, but like
yeah.
I in Falcon Winter Soldier, I don't expect like a big cameo from someone. Maybe they sneak Chris Evans in there. I don't think so. I don't. Well, it's tough with
No.
Loki though, because Loki's. I'll take that back with Loki because Loki looks like it's going down a weird route. So
Yeah. But I guess before, if you I can go over some Easter eggs that we
yeah,
haven't
sure.
mentioned yet. Um, with the title cards at that point, we kind of go over some of the inspirations, but definitely the hexagonal shapes. Definitely, it's a callback to the insignia of AIM. So we're getting
Mm-hmm.
more AIM references in this show. Trying to see the soap, the commercial I was very excited that I caught this when it
Mm-hmm.
happened at that point because I am a huge fan of Agent Shield. And this season in particular, season 4 was one of my favorite seasons. I think this is where they really started hitting it out of the park. That they're one of the I think this was the they kind of got into a thing where they started breaking seasons into 3 arcs, and this was
Mm-hmm.
the third part of the 3 arc, the framework arc of the 4th season, where they're in this alternate reality where basically, spoiler alert, Hydra is taken over, and so everything America's ruled by Hydra, this that, and the other. Well, Phil Coulson, Agent Coulson, is in it, and he's a teacher, but he's also part of this little resistance against Hydra, and he makes a comment saying, I would have figured it out a long time ago if it wasn't for mind control soap, the blue soap everyone uses. Hydra loads it with chemicals. It seeps into our bloodstream, implants false memories in our brains. They want us to believe that this is a magical place, but don't worry, I'm clear. I make my own now. So I think that's a callback to that because they definitely call it Hydra soap.
Oh yeah, I think so.
So
And that was when I was pretty impressed that you brought that to me because I obviously am watching the show, but when I was watching it, I was just like, why are we talking about Hydra again? Like, I don't know what they have to really do here other than like, okay, they're with Strucker and stuff. But no, I thought that was very clever. They're
mhm.
definitely to me making an eye wink to that.
Yeah, and Dr. Nielsen, I think that's a play on the Nielsen ratings at that point.
Mm.
I like how I think it was Brock that pointed out about the Bermuda Triangle and trying
Yeah.
to go to Bermuda and can't escape. They're basically stuck there. Um, but yeah, I mean, this one didn't have as many big Easter eggs that we also didn't go over. This is kind of I was kind of the first time I watched it, I said, I'm not catching some stuff. And some stuff I looked online, I'm not bringing up on the show because it's a big stretch, in my opinion,
Yeah.
some of them.
I love these type of shows when it gets to that point where people are like, it might be this, it might be that. And it's like, oh, people are just reaching now, which myself maybe as doing with Magneto and whatnot. But that's what we do
That's
now in the
okay.
weeks. And that's what you do,
That
right? It's the fun of it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, it is. So yeah, so number 4 is coming. We'll see if it's the big one that's going on. I mean, again, we got we got up to 9 episodes. So
Yeah.
every episode's gonna be, again, hold my beers. There's gonna be that moment.
Yeah, it will be interesting because people haven't seen this one, and I do think something. If it so far, like you said, every week has been bigger and bigger, so I expect that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our first ad break. As we mentioned, this is ad supported. This helps grow the network, support it, everything like that. We don't get to choose the ads, so you can get anything from beef jerky to a car to about Flavor Town on DoorDash. I have no idea, but that's a great thing. It's a big mystery. You never know, and sometimes the volume can be a little
It's
loud, but
it's
that
a mystery box of the ads.
exactly. But that kind of depends on, I think, your podcatcher and stuff like that. So not always the case. So we're gonna throw to some ads, and then we'll be right back with some news right about now. And we're back. We're back as always.
All right. So it was kind of a lighter news week. So
Mhm.
a lot of these have like a little bit of meat on them. Some of them just like kind of mentioning because it was just interesting finally getting some confirmations. But our first one is coming from BD's new podcast, Phase Zero, his second episode, he had on Jim Starlin, the creator of Thanos, on. He was kind of teasing if someone could guess it at that point, and it was very interesting guesses that people had who his guest was. But Jim Starlin might have let a leak out there about Thanos returning in the Eternals, and hashtag Travis told you so. Travis was right.
I try.
Yeah. You try. This was the quote Mr. Starlin made. He said, "I believe I heard some rumors that Thanos is coming back in different things. I think I've heard. Confirmed from Marvel Studios is that he's going to be at least a guest appearance inside the Eternals. So he's going to be around. This is not anything I'm making up. This is something I've read somewhere." So he kind of almost like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that at that point.
Yeah, he kind of backpedaled.
It kind of backpedals, but as you and I kind of talked about, because you had talked about a number of times that you'd believe Thanos was going to make some sort of return and in some way, shape, or form. And then I remember when we talked about the traveling Eternals exhibit that's going on like Marvel Studios, they did call out his lineage in relating to the Eternals at that point, that he's part of. He's what is it? The Deviants. He's the son of the Alars. For those unaware, the Alars is one of the early members of the Eternals, and him being the father of the Mad Titan could potentially bring him some interesting things for the film. So that I'm with you. I think even after the closing of the exhibit, and now Starlin kind of letting slip that he's in it, I think this is as much of a confirmation as he's in Eternals in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think it's just the thing that always tipped me off because Eternals didn't read that much of it, but when it was being announced or whatnot, that someone would talk about, oh, so and so character is the father of Thanos, stuff like that, right? And to me, it's just that I take it as like it's the Disney thing where for a while Vader, when they first got Star Wars, was just in so much, and they're like, well, everyone loves Vader, so put him in Rogue One, put him in Rebels, and that's where I feel like Thanos, in my opinion, is the Marvel of Vader. They are, to me, in my opinion, when our kids grow up and watch these movies, it's gonna be like Thanos is already still quoted so much, he's used so much. I think he is the Vader of of Marvel. So I think they'll rely on him at times like this. I've always said that one day he'll pop out that stone, so I think he'll be a full-time villain. And Jim Starlin could easily be talking about like he's gonna probably be in What If. That's probably like makes lots of sense. I think I've said this always. He's going to be in Eternals because it just makes sense to have a cameo or something like that. Who knows? If the Avengers and Loki did lose New York, you could see a Thanos cameo there or something like that, right? So I think there is other spots they will drop him just because he's just such a popular character and he's a well done character. You don't want to oversaturate it, but if they're non-advertised appearance, if they're just appearances even lesser than they were in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, then I think it's fine. It works out. I don't think he makes like a full-time return though until like another kind of 5 to 10 years ish. But I think at some point we'll see the Mad Titan again making trouble for the poor Avengers and people of the Earth,
You always come back to him. Even in Marvel Comics, they come back to him. I mean, even as Heroes Reborn, we're seeing a Thanos this time not with a glove, but with rings.
Yeah.
So,
with rings.
Infinity rings. So it'll be
Infinity rings.
Be interesting.
He's changing his style up,
He saw what was going on with the Mandarin. He said, you know what? I like yours better. It's a lot easier than wielding a glove.
In Eternals, do you think it would be just one scene, or do you think it'd be kind of Guardians level where it'd be a couple? Like, because in my opinion, I think it would honestly be maybe not even a cameo, but like one scene, 1 or 2 scenes, but nothing too big. Like even if it's just like telling people's origins, just showing him quickly. Like I could see screen time being under 2 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm with that. I'm with it as more of a quote unquote flashback than oh my God, he's still alive.
That's how Eternal starts, and they're fighting Thanos again. We're like, really? Okay.
I know. Okay, well, we'll ring this bell again so soon, but why not?
Yeah.
But yeah. So our next story is MCU producer teases more multiverse stories after Doctor Strange 2. During a recent interview with Rotten Tomatoes, Marvel COO Kevin Feige confirms the multiverse will continue even after the events of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. the interviewer says, the multiverse was teased a little bit at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. What can you tell us about this playing a part in the future of the MCU? Feige says, well, I mean, the title of the next Doctor Strange is Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. So that is our biggest clue that the movie will embrace the multiverse of madness there and very directly. There are, as always, like we do, connections before and after that will remain seen and discovered. But it seemed appropriate that it would be Doctor Strange that takes that in the most direct way. So what I took for this is yes, that's interesting. We kind of know all this, but it's the fact that he said this will continue to have effects. This won't just, the multiverse will not close off and we will never revisit it again after Doctor Strange 2, which I really like hearing, especially with the idea of, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania. That still leaves it open to that.
Yeah, you're right. Because the other way I also took it as I do think you're not going to close the multiverse because some people speculate that, oh, that's what Doctor Strange does. I don't think so. I think he kind of changes it and loops it around to stop affecting his universe. But if I want to play devil's advocate by him saying, oh, it affects the future, that could easily just be like, oh, a character died or something changed. Like the multiverse is closed off, but we're still seeing ramifications of that. But I just think the multiverse is just too good to close. They're just getting into it. I do think there's a time where, like, we're getting WandaVision, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. I think there is a time where you do have to back off it a little bit. I don't think you want to go do too
True.
much because I think that's Heinz would agree with CW. That would happen sometimes where you got like 50 versions of this character. Like when you got how many Harrison Wells or whatnot. And it's like, okay, this is a little much now. So I think they
And
do got to be careful. Same thing with Hyde. Like you got to be careful anyway. Same thing when we talk about Thanos. I wouldn't want Thanos appearing a bunch. You have to do it right. So I think it will stay open and you'll see effects, but I don't think right away you'll have another multiverse. And that's what maybe What If's for, or Loki. We don't even know. Loki season 2 could be a bunch of different stuff.
yeah, I think the difference between DC and Marvel in this one is DC has leaned a lot for many, many years into the concept of the multiverse, while
Yeah.
Marvel has, but nowhere near as much as DC.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very comfortable in their 616 Earth versus other Earths at that point. But again, that's not saying they dabble. I'm just saying in comparison, I think DC's done more with their multiverse than Marvel has.
No, I agree. It's always kind of been there, but it's been big thing in some stories, but so that's why I
Yeah,
think
like
this,
Heroes Reborn.
yes.
That was an example of it.
Yeah. And that's where it's like, I think that this will be a big event and you could see multiverse again, but I think this will be pretty much the big event about that. And then they'll move on to something else, whether that is just the quantum realm, whether that is Fantastic Four, mutants. They kind of like to do things in chunks and chapters, as we've seen, phases. So I think that's what that will be. And yeah, like I said, I just hope they don't do it too much because I love multiverse versions of people, but there also gets a point where you don't want to lose stakes and you don't want characters dying and always coming back and dying and coming back, even if they're different versions. We already have that with Loki and Gamora. So you don't want to do that too much where some general audience people might be like for me, it's fine because I read comic books. I like that. But some people might go, this just turns me off if everyone just keeps coming back. I need some sort of stake. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after.
Well, we did forget this, and I'm glad I pulled it up because we
Right.
totally forgot to put
I
out
know
it with
exactly what you're
our
talking about.
WandaVision discussion. Good. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah. When
Right
you
on the
said
same
forget, I'm like,
page.
oh no.
Yep, we forgot. So going back to WandaVision real quick, this newest one dropped today. WandaVision creator teases post-credit scenes. Speaking with Entertainment Weekly showrunner Jack Schaefer, I believe, yes, Schaefer,
Mhm.
discussed whether post-credit scenes were discussed for every episode of WandaVision. He said, we looked at the show in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different structural ways. But yeah, that's a tricky question, and I'm having trouble dodging it. Provided further that in any Marvel property, you should watch the thing in its entirety, no matter what. That's what I would say. So I think this is his best. Like he said, I don't have a poker face on this one, so I'm just not going to acknowledge it fully on this. So, but the fact that you and I basically said, wow, it doesn't sound like this one thing at the very end of the season. This sounds like there might be like more than one. And considering they almost faked me out with the first two episodes, because
Yes.
gosh darn it, there's almost 5 minutes worth of credits.
A lot of people to thank,
So
but
I mean, that's fine. I am all about giving credit. It is not just the main people you see on screen. Yes, I am not saying cut it out, but it's just like, man, I was really hoping. So I'm definitely, that's the wonderful thing about, watching it. I'll just kind of watch the clips as I go, kind of increasing speed to kind of see, and then I'll stop at that point because I've been doing that for 3 episodes. I'm going to continue now doing that right now.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny when he said plural because it's just one of those. Is it? We get those with the movies, right? Where you get two, where you can get one at the very beginning and then one at the end. But like the movie credits are still a lot longer than TV show credits most times. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be that. So when he said that, it's interesting because I almost wonder once we get into real world MCU if those last 3 episodes are like all current day stuff like that. If all three of those could have those, I'm gonna try not to get excited or too hyped about that. I'm gonna think, okay, last one will have one, that's it. But now this does make me go, well, I am gonna for sure have to stick around because I did think, oh, these are always gonna be the credits, and I almost wonder if it's just like randomly in the middle of one episode they'll just drop it. Like it'll be episode 5 randomly. And it's like, oh, you should have stuck around. Like he said, always be watching, right? So it's very interesting, and I'm excited to see these end credits because I think at least the very last one will be something pretty big.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, now back to the other news. I'm glad I thought about that before we got to the end. Anthony Mackie admits that he wasn't thrilled when Marvel pitched him the idea of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So he was a guest on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz, and this was a conversation that was had about like his response to this idea of the show. Horowitz says, we're getting pretty close to Falcon and Winter Soldier at long last. When they first heard about the rumblings of this, when did they tell you about this was in the plans? Mackie says, right after we wrapped Endgame, after the big premiere party, Splish Splash, I was meeting with everybody and they were like, we're going to do streaming and this is going to be a streaming show. And I was like, I don't know about that. And Horowitz says, you weren't so thrilled at first? He says, because you think about in no way Marvel would be able to take that same level of sophistication and quality. There's no way you'd be able to do that same thing on television. So basically, I thought the show was going to be like an old school Batman. I thought it was going to be some sort of crappy or some sort of shows like soap operas. The quality of the show with the acting, with the scripts and the development has been so high level, and he is so happy to eat. I'm so happy to eat my words. And I could get that just because I'm not saying I like Agents of Shield. I like the Netflix show. They were good. They had their moments of good quality. I think Netflix definitely in comparison, Agents of Shield was definitely higher quality, but I could notice the hesitation because again, this hadn't been done on streaming yet for in this way. That say what you want about Netflix, they weren't as connected as they say.
Hmm. Well, and that's the thing too. I think that's the biggest thing is there's a famous quote after Rise of Skywalker, like the press tour of John Boyega saying, "You're not going to Disney Plus me," and that's the thing where at that
Turned into an adjective. I'm going to plus you.
yeah, and at like that point, there was no shows. Now you can look at this and say, okay, this is what the MCU is. They are interacting. And I also just think that he didn't say this in the interview, but I also feel like he might have took it as a slight, as like, you're the new Captain America on our streaming service, and it's just like, okay, he can talk. He can say
Yeah,
he's not
ooh.
Captain America, but whatever. We'll wait until to see the show. But I think that's the thing. It was new. He didn't know what to think of it. I would understand him thinking like that. And I remember after the first episode of WandaVision, I rewatched the Falcon Winter Soldier trailer, and that's still the one that to me stands out the most of like, man, this does feel movie quality. It just feels so good. It
Yeah.
looks so good, and that's where I think, imagine once he was there, he went, okay, I see what they're doing. But I could get that, even though it's Kevin Feige and the team, it's still another first. It's like, okay, I imagine the same thing that I'm sure all those Avenger actors were pretty worried the first movie, like, is this gonna work? It's the same thing you hear about the story about Keaton and Jack Nicholson. The first time they did that photo shoot and they saw each other in the costume makeup, and they both looked at each other and went, this could be an utter disaster. And that's where it's like, when you go into the unknown, you don't know. And I think that's what he did. I think it was very valid, and I think it's good. Like, obviously he's doing some coach talk, but I think just from even what I've seen the trailers, it looks like, okay, this looks very cinematic. So I would hope that and think that all his worries have kind of been gone now.
Oh yeah. So we'll have to see in March.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, Spider-Man 3. Elizabeth Olsen addresses potential Scarlet Witch appearances. She was talking with Capital UK and asked if fans might see her in the Spider-Man 3 Home for the Holidays, Home Invasion, home, dude, where's my home? And she answered very quickly, I assume you might if everyone's in it. I haven't shown up to that party yet. I don't think. Also, apparently looking visibly confused.
Yeah, that's a
So,
mouthful of an
I,
answer there.
yeah, I think that considering what you and I have talked about on the show with the different kind of leaks and things about this, like I think she's an end credit scene,
Mhm.
or it's gonna lead, or she. I'm just gonna leave this because my factor fiction will definitely lead toward this, but I'm pretty confident that in some way, shape, or form she's in this.
Yeah, this is one where I won't say 100%, but I'm like a 95, 99 as far as I think it's an end credit scene. It just makes sense as the same way we both kind of think that Doctor Strange or Loki could be the end credit scene of this. If they're all leading into one another, it makes complete sense. So yeah, I think she will be in it. I think the role will be small, and that's about it. I don't think it'll be like, and all of a sudden she's the main villain. I don't think that'll be it. I think she'll be mentioned a few times. End credit scene.
Mhm.
Go see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. In and out. Boom.
Well, there we go. There, we just figured out our answer of who's acting with it. It's Benedict Cumberbatch.
There you go.
All right, next one. We've got some casting for She-Hulk that probably is not denied considering what this actress just put out there.
Give it a week.
Marvel, yeah, give it a week. Marvel She-Hulk adds Jennifer Walters' best friend in actress Ginger Gonzaga. This is broken by Deadline. Can exclusively report that Ginger Gonzaga is joining the cast of Marvel Studios She-Hulk, and that will release in Disney Plus next year. Gonzaga will be playing the best friend of Maslany's Jennifer Walters. In the comics in the 80s and 90s, the character of Jill Stevens is Jennifer Walters' closest acquaintance. It's not confirmed that she's playing Jill Stevens, but the fact that they call out it is going to be her best friend, it's pretty close or something like it. Gonzaga followed up this news with a post on her Instagram, and it's pretty confirming as you can get, but until she gets asked again directly. She-Hulk, I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am to join She-Hulk. We'll be directed by the Cairo. Jessica Gao is writing the series, and she is funny. I get to pal around with Tatiana Maslany,
He
who can
is
play
funny.
anything. I I get to look fierce while being funny. So stoked to join the Marvel Disney family. They have they have exuded nothing but the support and kindness in the next level vibes. I cannot wait. Also, tons of rumors going around that Mark Ruffalo is the greatest dude. We'll report back. Thanks, Marvel. And then the next day she denied it. No, I'm just kidding.
Imagine if she wasn't cast though, and this was just a fun way of her
Oh
trying to
my
get into
gosh.
the show. You know, obviously she'd be blackballed from Hollywood forever, but just like, oh, I'm so excited. I should do that tomorrow. I'm so excited that Marvel's officially cast me as Daredevil. I can't wait to appear in Spider-Man 3. Uh,
Yeah.
this is where I fail the Marvel Alliance fans because I don't know much about the character and I don't have any
Nope, neither do
reference
I.
point of this actress. That's where it's like every
Well,
once in a while I see the story and I go, oh no. And it's just like, but the good thing is, like, I'm excited. I always want people that, of course, I want the best actor, actress for the role, but I also personally
mm,
like that people are invested and excited for what they're doing, specifically in the projects I like, specifically Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. So, her enthusiasm, like, you know what, that gave me the check of like, I hope you are good. I trust and that's the thing. Most of these people, when they cast them, I trust Marvel. You know, it's they have we've talked
mm,
about immaculate casting record from the top to the very bottom. You know, there's not one performance in the MCU I can think of that was bad. That really rubbed me the wrong way. So when they cast someone even I don't know, I go, okay, I trust them. They got the stamp of approval until they don't. Until I see some casting that really like misses the mark. Maybe there's been ones that are like, oh, not the greatest. The same way as me, like I still prefer Terrence Howard's Rhodey over Don Cheadle's, but that was a pivot situation. And I don't think
next
Don
time,
Cheadle's
baby.
bad next time, baby. And I don't think that Don Cheadle's bad in the role. And that's the same thing. So it's like no one's really like, maybe you could try to make a case for Mickey Rourke and Iron Man 2. Maybe that's the one you could try to get to. But other than that, you know, I think they have a pretty good track record. So I trust them and I'm trusting her now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been one of those like I didn't know her per se, but when I saw the credits in the episodes of Shin Robot Chicken and Family Guy, I said, okay, I kind of pick up on the character. Definitely Grace and Frankie. My wife loves Grace and Frankie. So
Mhm.
once, I saw what she looked like, I can make that connection. I did not see Space Space Force, so can't say necessarily that. But yeah, sure. Again, this is where also I fail on this one. That was not a frame reference, but hey, again, I trust in their casting, and I'm glad she's excited. So I'm looking forward to seeing that next year. And finally, just in case everyone was doubting, Michael Douglas is growing out his goatee and confirmed his
Good.
involvement back with Ant-Man 3. He posted on Instagram, or whoever owns his Instagram at that point posted for him. Time to grow out the goatee. Hank Pym is back and coming in 2022. Before getting too excited, we've also seen this happen with Michelle Pfeiffer about Quantumania would release in 2022 before that was later redacted. That comment was redacted. So
Oh, good. I
I
hope
think
you weren't talking about the goatee for a second. I was like,
no,
that's a different
the
look.
goatee is definitely
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, this would fit because again, if we've heard the rumors that they're going to start filming in the spring of this year, this would fit with a 2022 release.
Yeah. So the Michael Douglas part, that's a no duh. Like if he wasn't coming back, I'd question everybody and be like, hey, something happened here.
He wanted more money.
Yeah, 2022. Okay, sounds good on paper, and well, I'm not going to get into because we talked about that. So you can check out the YouTube version a little before, and I've talked about many times. It's just one of these. It's tough for me to get excited for, and I'll quote Brent as far as if it ain't streaming, I'm not excited. And it's the same way as like this. It's like it's hard for me. It's like I still could see a scenario where I know people don't want to hear this, but I could see a scenario where they bump the entire slate again, and all these movies for 2021 are in 2022. So that's where it's like I like that they're going to go film, and we talked about this on the GOA chat as well recently. As far as these shows, I think give them a lot of leeway as far as putting content out. I think they have like 2 years before they because there will get to a point where the shows will be in a continuity point where they can't move forward because the way they writ them, it would spoil things for the movies and stuff like that, right? So eventually you will get to a point where, hey, it is the poop or get off the pot moment. But I think we're not there yet, and I think that's a good thing with.
He said poop.
Yeah, I didn't want to say the other word. I try to censor myself sometimes, be a good boy, but I think 2022 that's nice to hear. But as we talked about offcast as well, we do have an investors call in March. Let's see what happens with Black Widow first. You and I have talked about this, that every day there's something else. I'm with you as far as until we get the gospel. That's when we'll talk about in depth. But we can't talk about will Black Widow be delayed every week because that rumor comes out all the time. And I think it's one of these for people that you don't know.
Sometime every other day, a publication will retract their story and put out another one.
Well, exactly.
And you, Variety.
And if people don't know, 4 days after Raya and the Last Dragon comes out, Raya or Ray, I'm not sure how you say it, but they showed that trailer today. Looks really good. I don't know if we'll do premiere access. That's going to be up to my kids if they find their way to get it for me to do it. But the thing is, they said that's happening, and then 4 days after. Honestly, too, I guess I hadn't asked you this as far as like, I still don't think Ray is the best choice, but I also don't think 4 days is also enough to me. Like, as someone, I would have put that investors call like a week after, even like 4 days after Ray. It's just like, I don't know if that's enough to be like, this is the data. This is what, so who knows? I don't know what's happening, but you know what? I'm excited for Quantumania. I'm excited for Payne Reed, and I'm excited to see those Fantastic Four debut in there. That's what I'm throwing out there.
Yep. It's going to be good, but Yep. So
Kang.
that's the news. Kang. Oh, of course, Kang.
Oh, I know. There's just so much good stuff with that movie. It's good. Yeah, that's that. Like you said, a little lighter news, but you know what? That's not too bad because after one, we always got stuff to talk about with WandaVision, but two, we had a string of lots of big news, especially that week of WandaVision with everything. And
yeah, we weren't expecting all that coming out.
Well, yeah. So, we're going to take our last ad break, and then we're going to do our Fact or Fictions, and then we're going to do Comic Club. We're talking about The Vision issue 7 this week. Great. 8. Okay, so there we go. We're going to be talking about that. It's a very interesting one, so stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, so I will pull up the polls. Hopefully my internet doesn't crash on me. Every once in a while, what time is it?
Did you want to? You got to tackle this first before you pull up the polls.
Oh, right. The story I threw at you.
Yeah, you threw it in there. I said, why not? Let's talk about it.
Well, especially this week with it being lighter, it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only reason I wanted to talk about this is because this is just a what if. This is one of those, even in the report was a huge grain of salt. This was coming from Daniel Rickman, his Patreon, which it sucks because like these scoops get out there, and I do feel bad in a sense of like, I don't know the validity of scoops, but technically people are taking Patreon content and stealing it, and as someone that's a creator, not cool to see. But
At least they
then,
give him credit for it.
well, at least they give him credit. But it made the rounds. So that's why I'm talking about here, and that's why we're giving him credit as far as. And this is just I was more interested in the back half as far as what the actual rumor was. So the rumor was that Chris Evans had signed a 3-picture deal or something like that, and the 3 appearances was going to be a Hydra, Captain America, and Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness, assuming. Which I think you and I have said that whether it's Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness, we could just see that in general happening. So that to me is not like a big, like, that just seems like, okay, it's kind of like the Black Panther rumors of like, sure, he's taking the mantle. It's like, it just seems like a natural point of like, what would you do with this character? What didn't seem like a natural point to me is the other rumor was Chris Evans would appear in 2 Wolverine movies that would be like set in the past. Now, this is where I have a problem with, and here's the thing to give Rickman credit as far as we hear this all the time in Hollywood that sometimes these rumors are true, but it's literally just people in a room and someone threw the idea of like, well, what if we did 2 Wolverine movies and they're prequels and Chris Evans is in them because they had a relationship in the comic books. It could literally just one guy say that and then say, oh yeah, we'll write that down. Maybe we'll see.
And J. Jonah Jameson said, "Get me Spider-Man."
Well, yeah, like they could literally have this book of hundreds of ideas, and someone just shout this out, and now it got its way by Rickman. So I'm not denying that Rickman didn't hear this from somebody, and they're not lying to him. But I just think it's, to me, the sounds of the Hydra thing to me makes sense. Chris Evans coming back to be in, why I feel it's fishy is the fact that they'd be planning not 1 but 2 Wolverine past films. I don't buy that. I don't think, like, I know they plan ahead, but I don't think they'd be planning like, and then he's going to be in both of them. That feels a little fishy. And 2, it'd be fun. I could buy him having a cameo in that. I think that'd be tons of fun to see our James Howlett interact with, you know, Steve Rogers back in the day. But I just don't see that him coming back for 2 roles, a substantial role. But like I said, what made me interested in the story is when we did our X-Men 1 pitch, like, oh, what if Wolverine to start off was Laura Kinney, X-23, and Logan was kind of this like legend in X-Men because of his, like, he's kind of like a myth, like they're Bigfoot or something like that. It's like, he's been known, he's, like he's clone, but no one's ever
doesn't
seen
have
him.
the height of Bigfoot, but
no, but the strength indeed, and the hair too sometimes. But like, what if it's just like Wolverine is known? It's kind of like Luke Skywalker in Force Awakens. Like, he had these adventures, but no one really knows if he's a thing. So what do you think about the potential of them doing that? It's like, I liked that idea of hopefully they threw this to the wall, and this was something of like, they could, because Kevin Feige and the team might be like, hey, we want to do X-Men movies, but we don't want to just jump to Wolverine. Fox did that. We want to highlight some new characters. But how do we make money off of Wolverine? I thought when I heard that, that'd be a perfect way. I always thought, oh, they'll just keep him away. But I could see this being a good solution of you do X-Men films in present day, but then you do Wolverine films, 1 or 2, Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel style of he's on his adventures, he builds that legend. And when we want to bring him in the X-Men, we can. You know why? Because the dude doesn't age. You could bring him at any point and it makes sense. So like I said, this is pure rumor, like me and Chris talking about, grain of salt, but it's just, I liked that idea of doing these solo adventures kind of off, because that's a way of doing Wolverine, but not having to have him take over the X-Men again as like the main guy.
Yeah, but I do have to call you out on something. You're
What
talking
is
about
that?
Prequels, buddy. You're talking about prequels.
So before you go, I need to preface.
I just want to make sure. I don't want to make sure you're changing your tune on that.
So prequels, the ones I'm fine with are the ones like the first Avenger, Wonder Woman. Not Wonder Woman 1984. Not because of the movie. I'm not getting that debate. Just because I watched, was like, this didn't need to be a prequel in my opinion. The movies that are taking characters we don't know. Yes, we know Wolverine, but in the MCU we don't know them, so we'd be learning about them for the first time. You could make that case with Wonder Woman BVS, but I think there's just enough. It's prequels to me are literally the like, oh, Willy Wonka, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let's give you about Willy Wonka and how he created the chocolate factory and how he met the Oompa Loompas. Those are the prequels. I like prequels that are set in the world.
Enslaved them.
Well, yeah, very, very creepy, very not great, very Michael Jackson-ish. But like, this is the thing where like,
whoa, wasn't going that far, bud. But all right,
if the prequel is set in the world, that's fine. Like the way they're talking about doing the Witcher prequel or Game of Thrones, where it's like about other characters in the world. Like The Mandalorian, it's starting to tie in, but that was like other characters in the world that's in the past. I hate prequels that are literally like, we're going to tell you how Han Solo got his name. We're going to show you how he got his gun. I don't like that type of prequels. That's just like the, my daughter could write those type of prequels. Like, tell me how, Captain, no, I'm sorry. Oh, what is your, I'm alone. Han, Solo, get me out of here. I know
Roll,
Katie's not even listening to this
roll
because
credits. We're done,
it's
everyone.
just, it's just, and so that's this prequel would be. It's a prequel in the past, but it's not saying this Captain Marvel. It's not about we got a Captain Marvel movie and then we're doing a Captain Marvel prequel. It's like to introduce this character. It is set in the past. There should be like a variation of a prequel. I got to find the right terminology.
I just want to make sure and put that out there, just because someone would have called you on it. So
Yes, no, you're completely right. Oh, well, you said this back on Marvel 20 Alliance 3 volume this that you hate prequels. I do. There's like 5 good ones. That's about it.
I mean, it's interesting. I agree with you. I think Chris Evans coming back for 2 Wolverine-based movies. I said one's a stretch within itself, but 2,
Yeah.
Again, I more lean on the whole deadline thing. Is like 1 Marvel appearance with the possibility of another.
Mhm.
You know, again, I know your Fact or Fiction last week was, like at least 3
Yeah.
at that point, or up to 3.
Yeah. It would it be more than 3 Fact or Fiction? And we got the results coming up.
It's coming up at that point. I don't know. I'm not outside of a cameo. I go back to what I said last week. It's got to be something significant that brings something different to Chris Evans to stretch his legs in Captain America, because
Yes.
it's cool to meet up, and it's cool to see that interaction, because again, I go back to different issues of Wolverine. One of my favorite issues of Wolverine is Lee Claremont. That cover sticks out of my mind. Wolverine, Black Widow, Captain America.
Mhm.
That issue is one of my favorite issues of X-Men. But it's just not enough of a difference to the character that can bring it, but outside of the uniqueness of finally saying, "Oh, we get to see Captain America, Wolverine on screen." Yeah, I'll go and see it. And you already got my money with Wolverine at that point, throwing that cameo. But I don't know. I'm lower than 50% on this one, outside of a cameo. So.
Mhm. And what do you think about that idea of doing the Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman route of him having adventures before he kind of links up with X-Men possibly? Like, let's say that Chris Evans thinks is not true at all, just having Wolverine films, but in the sense of not in the present day. So we can kind of, have some fun, put him in this war, put him in that, etc.
I like it. I just worry that it becomes cliche at that point, and it just comes maybe not cliche, maybe use gimmicky at that point, because I agree. I want to see it. I would find it interesting to see, but I think I like the idea of Wolverine. We don't need to flesh out his entire past just because.
That's true too. Yeah, that's the
And
one
I
that I
like
did think about the origin.
Yeah, and again, Wolverine Origins, there's a whole lot of problems with that movie that we can't even go into. And I like the idea of the character that we see it occasionally through flashbacks within the movies, but I at least can see he can easily carry his own trilogy at that point. So I'm fine. I'm fine with a trilogy, but I would caution them doing more than one movie set in the past. I would love seeing him do a past movie with Alpha Flight. I would really enjoy seeing something like that. That would be cool. That would be different. His first X team, but wasn't the X-Men, and seeing the falling out with that.
Yeah, you don't want Wolverine 1984, Wolverine walking around in the mall, doing flips.
I got that. I got that. It was in the 90s. It was called X-Men, the animated series.
That's true. That's true. Get a live action, just walk around with soup. But yeah, no, like you said, that it's a big rumor. I don't really buy much of it other than the Cap Hydra stuff, because I just feel that it's a natural point. But yeah.
We talked
Let
about
us
that
know
last
if you have
week
any.
as well.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts on that, any opinions, let us know. It was just a fun little thing I want to shout here. So another fun little thing is our Fact or Fiction. This week's Fact or Fiction, the first one, WandaVision and the
hold on, pause for a second.
Yes.
You were quite proud of yourself. You got those out probably very much earlier than we have in recent memory. So
I sat down Sunday. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna try from now on to do that.
He even DM'd me saying, I did the Fact or Fiction send.
Only took me 3 weeks in the new year to get back on track. But, it's life is busy. I'll just let you know, life is busy.
Oh, yeah.
But Wanda and Vision's twins will not become Young Avengers. 57% fact, 43% fiction. I'm honestly surprised fact won out. I thought I was going to get fiction on this just with Young Avengers and Champions being talked about. I just think that a lot of people think that we do that, might be a bad ending, and maybe the twins are just more for fan service right now as far as, oh, you understand these characters, but you also have
Yeah.
tons of characters already in Young Avengers that are going to be like, you already got a pretty big roster and you can maybe do them again. Let's see. This was a big fact too. I actually didn't see the final results of this one. Charlie Cox will only appear as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man 3, meaning he will not suit as Daredevil. Fact 78%, 22%
Yeah.
fiction. My goodness. I know it's individual voters, but I said I was fact that he won't suit up, but I'm not 78% confidence fact. I'm like a 50-50 because I
That
think
was
I'm even
surprising.
less so. Yeah, I'm even less so. I think after what you talked about last week, as far as my pitch was, I don't know if there was time for him to suit up, but then your pitch made sense as far as Feige knows what the audience wants, and they at least want something with that suit. And that's where I was like, yeah, that is tough. So like I said, I'm a dead on 50-50, 78%. That's, people are very confident that I'm surprised.
See, so what was the last one?
And then if Chris Evans does return to the MCU, he will appear in more than 3 projects, meaning films or Disney Plus and new footage film. I had to be very specific on that because I didn't want someone using a flashback as a loophole that was already filmed or something. And this one was pretty close. Fact 46% and fiction 54%. So the only fiction there, but pretty close because I think people kind of took the approach that I said last week, as I think you're right as far as it's being main roles. It might be 1 or 2, but you can never count out an end credit scene there, a cameo there, something like that. That is the thing, especially if it's if he's a big villain leading to something, or if it was Secret Invasion, you could see that evil Cap appear a few times. He could literally just do the Stan Lee thing where he goes to a warehouse, shoots a bunch of scenes, and they sprinkle them throughout movies until they need them, right? So it'll be interesting. Let's wait till we get confirmation that's even 1, which I'm sure it is, but not confirmed yet.
Yeah.
Not confirmed.
No, I don't know where you're getting these rumors, guys. Chris Evans tweeted out saying, news to me.
News to me. Your turn, Chris.
All right, my turn. So, first one, Hydra will be making a return to the MCU, but their rise will be depicted in small moments throughout Phase 4, with them taking a bigger part in Phase 5.
Oh, so there's so many times where we do this, and then I have to say no, but it hurts my heart. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say fiction. And I'm also going to say this one doesn't hurt my heart because it's tough because we have all this Hydra stuff in WandaVision. We have Falcon and Winter Soldier, which, could be going a different route, but still Captain America is always tied to Hydra, right? Well, and then we got Hydra Cap. Oh man, there's just so many signs. I guess it's
and that's where I'm taking the idea from WandaVision. They're dropping a lot of Hydra, and yes, we could say that this is part of her memories with Strucker and things like that. And someone could say that, well, okay, AIM is an offshoot of Hydra in a way in the comics at that point. And when I say they're not going to be, I'm not going to say they're the big bad again. I'm just saying that they're going to be a different type of presence. They're going to be a faction that's at least going to be a thorn in someone's side in Phase 5.
You know what? I will say fact because I
changed his mind.
You did because I've been saying that too about WandaVision. Even though when you told me the soap, it still is like they're hitting that Hydra note quite a bit in this show already, and it's only 3 episodes. So the fact of Falcon Winter Soldier, Hydra will definitely come out. Even talking about the creation of Sword, they'll talk about Hydra made us change things. And if we get a Hydra Captain America, that in a sense kind of gets that point, right? Of, oh, there will be some Hydra there. I just want them to do it right. And if it's a return, I hope it's kind of Cap Hydra or someone would be the end point of it, and then we move on. I like Hydra enough, but I think that I don't want to just keep relying on. I don't want to keep going back to or like a big enough break because, like, well, I guess it has been a good minute since Winter Soldier and whatnot, but they still haven't dealt with the effects in Age of Ultron, and so it's tough because it is such a big faction, especially in the MCU. It's such a touchstone to them. So I will say fact. I just want them not to, like we talked about Thanos, overdo it.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really went hard into the Hydra, and that's where that's where Hydra kind of stayed in the MCU, not MCU kind of, relation at that point. So, I would like Hydra to come back and finally bring back Red Skull in the present day. That would be a great way to bring back Hydra. Again, I think Red Skull is too good of a villain to just continue to be on the sidelines where he's at right now. So So I'm going fact on that one just because I want to see that as the return of Red Skull.
There we go.
All right. Number 2, there will be at least one cameo in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that will miraculously remain secret, and their appearance will be a
Ooh,
game changer.
I like this one. Ooh, hmm.
I see. I thought about because Spider-Man 3, we've got way too many things at this point, way too many issues and some confirming, not confirming at that point. So I wanted to just flash ahead because we know
Hmm.
Doctor Strange is also ripe with cameos and things like that. But I think this one, I like the idea that I'm saying fact on it. I haven't. I'm still thinking about my fan cast, but I like this is a movie for bringing something back that we thought would never get back.
Yeah, that's interesting because I agree with you. It's kind of unfortunate, but I feel like I'm not going to say the wow factor. This sounds like I'm putting it down a bit, but the very big surprise wow factor of Spider-Man 3 is gone. We pretty
Mm-hmm.
much know everything. The wow factor will be actually seeing those scenes. We'll be seeing Toby, like I said, that
Mm-hmm.
moment if they get Toby and you see the scene and that score from his movie starts to drum and you're like, oh my goodness, like
Yep.
that will be the wow factor when you're in the seat. It won't be and they may even advertise Toby and Andrew, right? So that wow factor might be gone. It is interesting because it's almost like, yeah, that Luke Skywalker moment, that Red Skull, because Red Skull, no one had any idea that was going to be happening,
Yes.
when so I think they will. I'll say fact because I think they'll be able to pull it off. That's why I like that your generalization because I can't be specific, but I do trust them. They know, I've said this before, they know, even if we know everything, Spider-Man 3 is going to be huge. Having those three Spider-Man together is going to be very, very tough to top. And I do think that they look at Doctor Strange and go, well, if Doctor Strange was before, it's like, oh, you don't got to worry about topping it because Spider-Man 3 is after, and you don't got to top it necessarily, but you don't want people saying that Spider-Man 3 was the better multiverse movie and that doesn't have multiverse in the title, right? So that's where I think you need to have something big. And I do think something could be kept secret and changing MCU. Yeah, it could be. That's the only thing that could be tough, that maybe there's just a cameo, but I still think you're right as far as there could be something. And I don't know, maybe it's even Doctor Strange played by a different actor. I don't know, like something very, very, maybe it's Joaquin Phoenix finally getting his shot, but I'll say fact.
Yeah, like I said, I just like the idea that it's got to be something because that movie is going to
Mhm.
be big within itself and the implications for it. But and it's more than just a cameo. This cameo will turn into something bigger, whether they represent something, the character they're playing. I don't know. There's too many
Yeah.
different options. I don't want to go into that because we've gone into it in different ways. But I just like the
Mhm.
idea that we're going to have something, and I love that because that's where this question kind of originated from. Was the idea that Red Skull was one of the big surprises out of Endgame. So
Yeah.
that's where I think that they can keep a secret. My last one, and this full disclosure, this does come from listening to Phase Zero, but I liked it enough that I want to see exactly. It worked perfectly for a fact or fiction. WandaVision will end with an alternate reality consuming all of reality and the multiverse being blown wide open.
I'll say fiction. I think it's too big right away. I think they'll start in pockets, and I think that
Okay.
they, because even the way that I assume, like with Spider-Man 3 being direct result, you could even get Spider-Man 3 somehow that blowing up like something happened with
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision. I think it will start slowly. So I'm not saying it could never happen, but directly in WandaVision, no, but it's not out of the realm of possibility because this show's already
Mm-hmm.
weird and nuts. And like I think they've said like big stuff is gonna happen. I trust them with that. I don't know about this big actor Paul Bettany talking about, but I do trust them that this will change the MCU. Because the only reason I say not in WandaVision right away, because I feel like if it gets to that state, that may be like an Avengers helping Doctor Strange level threat, and they might wait on
Mm-hmm.
that a little bit. So I'll say, and that's where you could get into Quantum Mania and Loki, but those shows are and movies are happening kind of right now are filming. So I'll say fiction for now, but ask me in 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go fiction right now too, just because I think our both our theories have been aligned that she'll break reality and the multiverse will start cracking open in different pockets. But the fact that the whole world being consumed by it, this is where we see the idea of the world being consumed by a House of M like idea.
Mhm.
It just yet doesn't jive with what we've been hearing with Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
That's where I say it's fiction, but I like the potential for it. So
What did you
we'll
think?
see.
I can't remember. I'm back.
Okay,
Tech
there we
problems
go.
are just great. I
Start
don't
again.
know. Tech problems are just fantastic. The goes for weeks, nothing, and now it's just like boom, boom, boom. So I apologize, folks. Anyone's listening, I will look in those next week. What I was gonna say is, do you think there's any shot? I can't remember if it was someone I follow my timeline or just a comment. Do you think there's any shot of this show having a almost Book of Boba Fett ending where I think it's way too big of a thing, but some people have said, what if something big event happens and it ends when the grand credit scenes is teasing a new series or movie that was not announced? And I've seen people throw out
I'm not there yet.
X-Men.
I think
I'm
it's
not there yet either, but I just thought it was interesting to bring. I was like a potential theory, like, okay, that could be fun, but I don't think so yet. But I think that would be one day in the future cool way to do X-Men, not announce it and the end credit
mhm.
scene be this is the date or whatnot. I think that is cool, but I don't know if it's needed for this.
Yeah, no, if anything, it'd be hinting towards Loki
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah, I agree.
That'd
Well,
be my guess. If they're gonna hit towards another series or lead into it, this does have potential. It does have in offshoot ways leads into Loki.
yeah. Well,
So
I will put those out, try
yep.
to early as possible, like I said. But no, those are some good ones. I'm excited to see what the voting is, and yeah. And as always, if you have any or any input, please let us know. So now we're getting the Comic Club Vision issue 8. Chris, what do you think about this one? Because this one is important, but it's kind of like I don't want to say a detour because it has a bunch to do with the main plot, but I feel like it's a very different issue as far as it gets us on. It introduces a plot point that we didn't really see coming as far as, at least when I was reading it, I know this character, but I thought it takes a small detour in as far as it seems like it's ramping up and then it's like, okay, this is like a quieter issue, but then it's quietly not a quiet issue.
Yeah, it's another one. Like it's another set. It's a setup issue at that point. We've come to a different point of we left off with kind of a flashback with the Wanda and Vision issue at that point. But
Mhm.
it's they're trying to move on with their lives and they kind of talk about like Vision's talking about kind of history and different things and his history with Ultron and Ultron creating not just him but also another being and becoming known as what's victorious is that the future of this of his basically I guess his brother
Yes.
in a way um and it's interesting just the history because this is something I was not familiar with as much but I it was Victor is an interesting character. And
Mhm.
without knowing the history of it, this is kind of an interesting introduction for me to understand who he is and his relationship with Vision, because this is the only kind of thing I've seen of him. But I like that how much Vision looks at him as family
Mhm.
already, and doesn't necessarily look at him as a threat, and just kind of wants to be there for the family and kind of be there and get to know and see exactly what's going on. And it's not necessarily true, but it's under the guise of he's got a supposed internship and he's going to be staying with them for a while. But I like how he's not only trying to get in well with the family more, but spends he almost has a couple of moments with every single family member to kind of understand who they are. And I like those moments because we see a little bit of what's going on with the family members, but also still see the effects of the previous issues.
Yeah, it is him getting closer to them, but then also when you reveal at the end, it's also him like in a sense to me weaseling his way into the family because he's getting close with each and every one of them and they're trusting him. And yeah, like when you're talking about this character, he's the same thing, a character I didn't know much about when he was reintroduced and had to look him up and everything like that. And I like how they lay the groundwork because multiple times in this series we've talked about, referring back to Ultron and I feed him this many times or defeat him this many times. So I like that tying together. But I think you're right as far as he is a character you don't know what to expect, but I think they wanted that. I think they almost wanted a clean slate type type of character that if they come in, you don't know if they're overly good or overly bad. Because even when they introduced them, they gave him this whole monologue or inner monologue of narration of what his life could become, how he's going to destroy the Avengers, stuff like that. So right away, you're like, this guy's a bad guy. But then
Yeah.
a few pages later, it's like, well, no, he's trying to turn around. He doesn't want to be that. And then you see the moments with the family. So you go, okay, no, he's a good guy. And then the end, it's like, well, what type of guy is he? Obviously, he's a good guy because he's helping out the Avengers, but we don't know how close he actually feels about this family. And I think that works only with a character that you don't know much or have too much of a reference point for, because other heroes and villains, we kind of know, like anytime Doom's in a story, it's like, well, even if he's acting good now, eventually he's going to have some plot, right? And that's where this character,
Yeah.
I think, worked out very well for that. And it was good to see the state of where the family is now after, like you said, weeks of kind of traumatic things happening.
Yeah, and especially it's good to see kind of another like an outsider to us, but not an outsider of Vision, and just
Mhm.
how he the fact that, even jumping towards the end, we see that he's sent there by the Avengers to kind of look in. What a smart move by the Avengers, because you look at the front of the issue and it's all the Avengers at the door. Well, they're not
Yes.
there. They don't want to tip off Vision and say that they're onto him. They're going to send a friendly face. They're going to
Yeah.
send someone that they Vision can trust and will take in and kind of maybe let hopefully in on what's going on, and why does Harkness think that Vision's the end of them all. And it was a smart play by them. Unfortunate that Vin has unwillingly discover his secret so quickly.
Yeah, I'm just playing catch and fetch with the dog. Well, I thought that was very like interesting a way to do it, as far as even the cover putting that way. And because right away you think, okay, there's gonna be a big clash. Like even we set up last week of like the Avengers are coming, here they come, they know what Vision's up to, things are about to go down. And that doesn't happen, but it does, because the Avengers are there. They're sneakingly. They're there what you don't think they're there, but they are looking into things. They have Victor look into this, and I think it's very smart. I love the panels at the end of Vin finding out and then just seeing both of them react to each other. And this was one that I've always wanted to, but this is one of those two that when this was done, I was like, oh man, I really want to read the next issue. I didn't, because I know we do this, but I looked at like the next 2 pages again. I'm like, oh, it's very, very interesting, because again, this was one of those that I think the issue was a bit slower, but to me, it is slower and it is a setup one, but I think it's a little less set where sometimes it's a lot of setup, and at the end it's just kind of like, okay, this is where we are. This is where we are. But then when you find out the reveal, it makes you look back at the entire issue a lot differently, and it gives you a big cliffhanger of, oh, this doesn't look too good for Vin, and now we've met this new character. Again, another very soap opera drama moment, but I think it leaves you on a big, like, I want to know what's next.
Yeah, definitely. We hadn't had like an issue like that for a couple at that
Yeah.
point, just finding out the ramifications. So doesn't look like Vin's gonna have a good day,
No.
good night at that point.
No.
Yeah, I mean, a good issue all in all.
Mhm.
I know it's we're, like we said, we're gonna be start picking up, and this is where we're gonna be really start seeing. I think it's as we march towards the end of the series, this is where we're gonna see some major things, and some people might not make it out.
No, we've already had a few people, like that dog didn't make it out from earlier. The Reaper hasn't made it out, so
But he's back in a different way.
he's back in a pet cemetery,
Hey,
sort of
but
way.
watch out for that. I think it's in the next episode of WandaVision. We're gonna see a call back to Sparky. I think Sparky, you're gonna see their dog is named Sparky in the next
Yeah, I have
episode.
thought a dog is definitely coming at some point, though. I would love it if they actually did the whole robot dog and gave him the color and everything of that, and none of the
Yeah.
neighbors actually like acknowledged it. Just thought it was a regular dog until they do later on,
Yeah.
like off screen. But no, I think there will definitely be some sort of dog. But yeah, no, this is, like I said, a bit more of the slower issue, but it's just was another good issue. And like I said, when it was over, like, oh, I want to read it again, and such a good series.
Very good. So, yep. So, chapter 33.
Yeah.
in the
We
books.
we haven't this I think this is the first time we haven't gone over in 2 hours in ages, you and me. So that's a change of
Maybe with the
pace, but
commercials we put in, it'll be 2 hours.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, ladies and gentlemen, thank you always for tuning live. I'm sorry for any tech issues I had because who knows? There's something I got to look in the old vision schematics and see what's going on and see what's changing in this room. You always love in the podcast world when you change not a single setting, not a single thing in the room. And it doesn't quite work out, it's just something in the air. But no, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for always tuning in. And yeah, I'm excited next week to see that episode of WandaVision because it's something like we talked about, could be something big. Critics haven't seen it, so could be some good conversation. I think we'll probably do some a bit more Tad news coming up here because all this was kind of little stuff. But as always, you can find me at Travis B. Snail. My name's always changing, but the handle's not. You can find me at Geekverse. We just did a very fun After Nine episode where we just talked about a lot of different things in the world going on and a lot of the bad dates and getting wisdom teeth removed and Canadian governments talking about glory holes and stuff like that. It's all good times over there After Nine. It's
All
an
right.
uncensored show. And then we just did our Man of Steel retrospective, which is a very, very, very different type of film for us because it's one Kirkland had seen for the first time. He had never seen it. He'd seen BVS, but he'd never seen it for the first time. So it was interesting hearing his thoughts. So,
Okay.
Chris, where can I find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow the show at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet or email if you want to be free, provide feedback, ask questions, fact or fictions. We'll definitely enjoy reading them on there. Definitely continue to rate and review the podcast and Apple Podcasts, whichever podcatcher choice may be. Thank you all for joining us in the chat, live viewers. Thank you for listening. As always, be safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.